himself getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on. So Nurov in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. He doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani, not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Haig deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
Say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the out pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And it definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down in towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed Morton far enough ahead. He's got out of line. It's now Pike going to have a go at Werrell. Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such trouble. He's touched on second and change. All of a sudden Miller's back in play.
On to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's a lot have fun. Yeah, and it's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is enjoying himself watching. And the Burger King machine's off into the grass a little bit there. Is that really bunching up now?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome back to season number 3 of the Premier Endurance Racing League, proudly brought to you by Gamer Gear Direct. Tonight, there's new cars in the water, but there's also a new track to the iRacing platform. Circuito Navarra, located all the way over in Spain, is going to play host to another thrilling installment of 2 hours worth of GT3 racing action, and on the minds of all the competitors, what has changed within the class, what has changed within the category, and is that Porsche still so damn dominant? Pete, those will be the questions we'll be answering in 2 hours' time.
Absolutely. Welcome back, Scotty, to Season 4 of Premier Endurance League. I'm pleased that we both got a callback. That's pretty cool. That's a little bit of a tick in the box for us. So at least we've got a start. But really exciting times, mate. 59 drivers have entered. Most drivers, tonight's the first night that they've got to select their car for the whole season for a 7 series race. It's our first night at a brand new track in iRacing, and it's Circuito Navarra, located in Spain, as I just said. I don't know if you've driven it. I did some laps of it today, and I think it's a fabulous driver's track with lots of opportunities for overtakes and mishaps. And we've got all of this, just new car selection. 29 elite drivers tonight, which means we've got about 18 on-track challenges. So it's almost a bit off of 50-50. 2 hours of endurance racing at a new track, new car selection. And we got the Chev and we got the Ford Mustang that have come to iRacing in between the seasons. So people have been able to select those from amongst the rest of the GT mill. And the question I got for you, Scotty, is if you were driving, which car would you pick?
I'm actually really struggling to answer that question these days because it's been a while since I've actually done a lot of racing in the GT3s. 24 hours of Spa, I settled into the Ferrari very quickly and felt incredibly comfortable in that. But I think the BMW is just such a good all-rounder. They've all got their cases though now, and the big, the big ticket item is if there's ever some of that precipitation in the offering, well, the Porsche immediately just surges to the forefront. And it's one of the strongest cars in wet condition. So qualifying has been run and done already for the first race of this season, and it is going to be not a Porsche or out of pole position, which is interesting to note. But there's a few cars up and down the field that have sort of changed. I think one of the big ones is Owen Coleman, defending champion, moves out of the Porsche. He's actually moved over into the Chevy.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I picked up. There's a couple of really big changes out of drivers that I've sort of taken a note of. So you're right, Owen's changed cars, and so for the championship to change cars and then have another crack, that's a really big story. Because if you won the championship, you feel pretty comfortable in the same car. But to make a change to a new car, that's a big thing. Rui Coimbra is the sole driver who's picked the McLaren out of the whole field. So one McLaren in the whole field. Fozzie has dumped it. So the challenger Clark Mars Foster with that lime green McLaren from the last season, he's dumped the McLaren. He's gone to the Chev. The same with Owen. But yeah, so Rui Coimbra running the McLaren. So it'd be good to see how Rui can to run that brand, given that McLaren's having such a strong run now in Formula One. Packets. Bloody Jimmy Packets Hughes. He's gone on and on and on about the Lamborghini. What did you choose, Scotty? He chose the Porsche. And is that because Owen Coleman won in a Porsche? I actually reckon he would have been better off in the Lamborghini. But time will tell. And if he is a driver in a Porsche doing Porsche things, he's going to cop it from me for 7 rounds, right? Because I said to him, if you're comfy, pick what you love and take the Lambo. So Porsche doing Porsche things to packets is going to be one hell of a fun time over the next 7 rounds. A couple other things to note. Jimmy Middleton, true to his Mustang love, he stayed in there. Ricky Provenzali has chosen the Porsche. He's gone from the Mercedes.
I'm disappointed.
And what stands out to me, mate? Not one driver is driving the Mercedes.
Really? Well, that's an interesting one.
Wait, no, Leith McClement has just joined the server recently, and that Leith McClement won Mercedes in the field.
So it's gone from being...
and he's RC, there you go.
I mean, it's gone from being the most popular car out there to not one of the most popular cars out there, which is very difficult to say. And Leith McClement, no, he is actually in the race. You're thinking Lee Williamson as our race controller. But yeah, so we'll have one Mercedes. If you'd have said that to me 3 or 4 months ago, I would have told you you're crazy because it's been one of the more popular cars and one of the favourite cars in terms of the field for a very, very long time. The introduction of the Mustang, very quick in a straight line, is what needs to be said about the Mustang. Very, very quick in a straight line. The only problem with that, a little unbalanced. Doesn't settle itself all that well.
I drove the Mustang a little bit this afternoon, and I didn't necessarily like I don't think the gears are matched well at all for this track. You can almost hold fifth gear all the way out the main straight into the first 2 corners. You don't need to change in the 6th. So essentially, you're losing a gear in the Mustang. But I did. In fact, Scotty, don't tell anybody I bought and drove the Ford, right? But I did find I did think while I was driving it, if you're a V8 supercars driver, it's the closest GT3 to V8 supercars. So essentially the driving experience is so similar to the V8 supercar that it would make the transition a lot easier. Because if you go into the Ferrari, you go into the Porsche, you go even to the Chev, they're really multi-cylinder engines, high revving. They're genuine sort of supercar feel, but the Mustang's still got that big chunky touring car, but with the aerodynamics. So it sort of allows that transition. But yeah, don't tell them too much. But I did that.
Well, I'd say if you have a look across like all of the cars as well, like what is the car that's most readily available to the lower end of financial brackets is the Mustang, which is part and parcel of the popularity of it, right? It's not an expensive BMW, it's not an expensive Porsche, it's not a McLaren, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Audi. It is certainly a car that is more approachable and to the common man. But anyway, like we've said, qualifying has been run and done. The warm-up was what you were witnessing just there before. It's time to discuss our first qualifying order of the season. Pole position is going to go to Ben Woods to start us off for Twitchy Foot Racing. He'll be in an Audi off alongside of him, Dean Mackay. Then we'll throw it back to Tommy Wallace and Owen Coleman on row number 2. So it goes Audi, Porsche, Chevrolet. From there on back, we'll look at Benn Jeffery, who'll be starting off of row number 3, off alongside of Daniel Magru, who has elected to jump across to the Audi. Stewie Shaw is in a Porsche at a 7th spot in the grid, off alongside of Sam Chapman. Adam Burhop is going to be next inside the top 10, and to round out that top 10 and moving into the elite class will be Rain Campbell in 10th spot. Trent Allen outside the top 10, 11th, off alongside of Jacob Hughes in 12th. Alan Dawson, teammate to Jacob Hughes, just in behind him, 13th, off alongside of Eli Donaldson. Adam Jepson and Stefan Lawrence round out your top 16. 17th is Daniel Finney, off alongside of 18th, Richard Mair, won a Porsche last season in the Chevrolet for him. Matt Carrick and Vinnie Nguyen are going to round out your top 20. 21st will be a little bit of a disappointing qualifying for Matt Skulls, off alongside of Rue Koistra. Rick Provenzali, 23rd, right in the meat of the field. Alfonso Latella will be off alongside of him. James Mason in 25th will be alongside of Mark Foster in 26th, who I believe is second of our Challenger class drivers. It'll be Eli Donaldson, who's actually got pole for that. Nick Bottrell will be 27th, off alongside of Matt Webber in 28th. Jamie Saxon and Jesse McMenamin round out your top 30. Martin Hallinan from Chris Ruddle, Benjamin Brooks and Isaac Curtis down to 34. Eric Fenson and Rob Edwards, 36. Dean Hunt, Adrian Gretsch, all the way back in 37, 38. Your top 40, remember we're still going from here, is going to be Daryl O'Sullivan off alongside of Stefan Mellis. 41st will be Tom Williams. Chris Withers in 42nd. Janice Ragwani off alongside of Nathaniel Coburn in 44th. Jimmy Middleton in 45th. Out of 49 cars, 46 would be Matt McCamley. Braden O'Loughlin and Martin Lipsky round out your 48, and 49th on the grid in the final car to make the start of the race will be Leith McClimate in that solo Mercedes. Failed to set a qualifying lap, has to come from the rear. 2 hours worth of racing action, and we're about halfway, probably a third of the way around our formation lap already, Pete. And there's a lot of minor rise and fall, but it is a technical circuit, I would say.
It's very technical. It's got about 3 or 4 sort of corners that are greater than 90 degrees in terms of cornering. So big braking, you've got good acceleration, you've got to be able to take the corner well, come out of the corners. It's got a little bit of rise and fall. The last corner coming on the straight, really important. It's an uphill corner with a right-hand turn. It's about 140 degrees, and you come around. If you don't get that right, you lose a lot of time straight away. The thing that's really stood out to me, Owen Coleman, current champion, is sitting in fourth. We've got a whole lot of new drivers in the series this season that weren't with us. So Dean Mackay, Tommy Wallace, some new names up there. They're up the front. Will the likes of Stewie Shaw, Dan Magri, will they put on the same pressure that they did last round? And I've got to tell you, Eli Donaldson, the Challenger class, he's qualified about 12 positions ahead of his next Challenger class. So Eli, hopefully he's not out of place and finds himself in the elite next round. But as a Challenger class, he's put himself in a really good position to take it out and get off to a good start for this season.
Yeah, and he'll be the lead car by 12 positions or so back to Mark Foster, and it'll be Audi plays Chevrolet in terms of your Challenger class. Right, the first race start of the season. Ben Woods has control of the field, and he does not wait long. He will launch as they come out of the final corner. The front two rows are going to go to single file straight away. Benn Jeffery will try and hang on to Daniel Magri in the background. As you can see, there's going to be 49 cars to make their way out of that final corner. They're still coming as off into turn one launches Ben Woods. And for 2 hours worth of racing action, somewhere in the realm of 70 plus laps, probably looking for about 74, 75 laps the duration tonight. And the opening stance is about bringing the tyres into temperature, making sure you survive that opening lap, and if you've got any pace to burn, make sure that you're there to use it.
Absolutely, and that turn one complex in this track is a really difficult. It's like a double apex, double corner, and if you don't get it right, it was a classic place, as I was doing some driving today, where a Porsche would do Porsche things, a Chevy would spin you around the rear, and a Mustang, if you touched the curb, would be all over the place. So glad to see all 49 cars got through turn one. So we have the whole season underway. Every driver has passed turn one, so every driver is in this race to go from way to go, and we are away and well and truly racing.
There was one driver who made it through turn one, made it through turn four, and that was as far as he's gone at the moment. For Dean Hunt, it's all gone awry, so keep your eyes on the Chevrolet right there in the middle of it, and a twitch happened in that rear end, and he caught it, and then the car snapped back in the opposite direction. It's ripped the left rear tyre off.
He's done a fair bit of damage. You might be able to drive it back, or he might have to tow. I haven't heard a call for a tow on our iRacing feed, so he might be able to drive it back, get in the pit and get going. But yeah, not a good start there. But again, I did say that Chevy, she's a nice car. She feels like a bit of a Ferrari engine with a Lamborghini style sort of rear engine, wing mount that the Porsche has. So it's a kind of a combination thing, bit of a beast to drive, but nice and smooth to drive. But you've got to drive it well, and you've got to drive it right. But it can throw you out. And we've got
So that was some onboard action from Owen Coleman trying to go the long way around to Tommy Wallace, and the new sights and sounds of the Chevrolet as Owen trying to settle in to his title defense. Dan Magri's managed to go with them a little bit up in front as well, so
top two. Start from Dan Magri, Scotty. If I remember rightly, Dan Magri was sort of about mid-pack, and he was getting good results from good strategy calls. So to see him up in the top 5 at the start of this round, he's put some practice in.
Yeah, and moving his way forwards as well. Still trying to cut his way down through. Get himself settled in. He has managed to go with those front few. Did manage to gain a spot over Benn Jeffery off the start. And for the meantime, everyone seems relatively sorted and together.
Yeah, looks like the race has settled down a bit, Scotty. So let's talk some numbers while it's settled down, and let's get these guys that can just find their feet and get their fuel burn going. But I estimate it's about it's certainly a 2-stop pit stop race, this one. So we've got 65% fuel capacities for this race. For this season, the Endurance League is going to mix up the fuel tank capacity, so it's not always going to be a 65% mark every race. It's going to be mixed up. It's going to be up and down a little bit, which might change the windows as we go. But for tonight, we are 65%. I think that's about 27 laps from the fuel burn I was getting in the Porsche. So we're looking at about the sort of, again, the 40-minute mark like we were last season. But 27 laps is the sort of thing to look out for if you're looking at the lap count per stint. The critical lap, I'm expecting about 72 laps tonight, and I think the critical lap to get home on a full tank of fuel, a 65% tank of fuel, is lap 45-ish. So a safety car around about lap 44, 45, and I think you can jump in, pull the car up, save a bit, and make it to the end. So that's the numbers that we're looking at. So we'll see how that pans out. Obviously, some of these faster guys might use a little bit more fuel than I did in my practice laps. I was sort of cutting around about 41s, and there's half the field. That'll be all the elite challengers, which are well and truly faster than I am in the 40s. But yeah, so they might be around about sort of 25, 26 laps if they're burning a little bit more fuel. But certainly a two-stopper, a little bit of a window in between, and we'll see how they make it.
We're keeping half an eye on there. Richard Mair, as he was having a crack at Daniel Finney just up ahead of him. So both of those guys are still in the positions that they've started, looking to try and make some ground if and where they can. There's really no one that's made a whole bunch of spots. If anything, there is one driver that's lost 4 spots off the start, which is Matt Carrick, to start us off as we're back up towards the front end of the field, having again a look at Owen Coleman trying to go the long way around at turn 1. Very difficult, and he's forced to back out once more, although Wallace runs it wide at turn 3. Now a bit of switchback will be on at turn 4, and Coleman's managed to carry a really nice amount of speed, but it's not kind of an overtaking opportunity. This next little kink in at 5, you sort of need all the room, and then it opens itself up, and Wallace is really covering for Coleman right here, and you can just see it everywhere he's going, just a fraction deep, a fraction deep, a fraction deep. Coleman's forcing him to cover, and will again as they get down to turn number 8. The run onto the back straight, he just cannot get that car in a position to set up the overtake at the moment.
Yeah, looks to me like Coleman's got the pace on him, but Wallace is just defending right now. I don't know if it's probably too early to do that. It might just be safer just to let Owen through and run at your own pace. But you know what? I'm not the one out there driving. So, old Mr. Wallace there is going to make up his own mind about whether he wants to maintain that track position and fight hard for it. You and I both know, Scotty, when you fight hard, you lose time overall.
Well, I was just saying, I think he's working the tyres incredibly hard, and the difficulty he's going to have is at the back end of a stint, that might leave him a smidge vulnerable. In the meantime, Coleman continues to just harass and harangue. And there was a snap of oversteer in the middle of that lap for Tommy Wallace, and now Coleman might get good drive. Indeed, he will get good drive off the final corner. Porsche not known for its speed in a straight line. But is this front straight long enough will be the big old key. And Coleman's trying to make some ground, just starts to make some ground about now. And he did get a better exit. And Tommy Wallace ahead of him, but not able to position the car up and alongside. Still looking for the crisscross at the kink at turn 2. And he just cannot get far enough up alongside. Still a better exit. Can't do much about it. And Dan Magri really started to close in. You get the sense that Wallace is a huge cork in the bottle.
I think right now Wallace is a bit of a huge cork in the bottle, and I think Owen's certainly got a lot more speed. He's just got to get an exit that's better and just get enough of an overlap to make Wallace just have to sit there and let him come through. But I suppose the risk Owen's got is that if Dan Magri gets a bit of a sniff, Dan Magri's going to have a crack at Owen, right? But have a look at the leaders. They are just pulling away. They've pulled away about 2 seconds because of this fight. And that's because Wallace is defending. So he's off the optimal line, and he is really slowing this field down and is causing a massive cork in the bottle. If these drivers start to get through, they're going to open themselves up a gap. But what they're doing is they're letting Ben Woods and Team McCall, they are just out there saying, thanks dudes, you can just fight it, and we are just going to go and look pretty, and just out we go and run away with this race.
Yeah, still trying to look for any opportunity you possibly can. That shot right there gives you the sense. It's 4.5 seconds now, 4.8 seconds up to Mackay, who's the next car up ahead. And
thank you very much, Race Control.
now he's got to try and do something with it if he can. So for Mackay, who sits in second place, 1.4 seconds on the last lap. We'll get an update as everyone crosses the start-finish line here. What's it look like this time by? Another 1.1 seconds as he pulls away again and again. You just got to, at some point in time, Wallace has just got to recognise this is not a fight I can keep up for forever. He's already had one wobble, Pete. When's the second one coming?
Well, mate, if it is a fight he can keep up, well, I tell you what, we're going to be in for a hell of an exciting time because he's going to keep 15 to 20 cars all nose to tail, all giving each other a little bit of crack as soon as one has a little bit of oversteer out of the corner and somebody else thinks that they've got to run. So this could be really exciting. But you know, in terms of the whole race, Ben Woods and Dee McKay are just licking their lips going, I love you, Wallace. You just keep driving that and keep defending. But I tell you what, I don't think it's going to be too long. I think Owen's just going to get a little bit of draft point. He might get it right now. He's just going to have this little bit of look on the inside.
Now Wallace has run wide. Now he's really run wide.
That's it. Here he goes. Off to you, Scotty.
He's finally got some overlap, but he's going to be on the outside when they get down here to turn number 11. Still going to harass around the outside. Now he's got the nose ahead for the first time. The kink at 12. Finally, Wallace will yield, but will he yield for 2? Because Magri's got the elbows out. Magri will get the inside down at 13. He will finally slice up the inside, and Wallace hung on to that one for too long. He defended a little bit too much, and it's not just cost him 1, it's cost him 2.
The real thing is, you know, are we now going to see Owen Coleman, Dee Magri pull away and Wallace hold up Benn Jeffery and Shaw? And you and I both know that Jeffrey and Shaw, they are two quick competitors, mate. They were competing last season for wins, so those two guys aren't going to take much.
How about Rain Campbell?
Pressure back onto Wallace as well, so I think the pressure's going to stay there.
Rain Campbell really trying to harass Adam Burhop, and then that Mustang puts its foot down and really accentuates all of its greatest features and assets is on the slide. Adam Burhop down into turn 4, and I think there might have been a check-up and a little bit of contact at some point in the pack because they are all getting checked up, and it's all the way down to 16th spot in this lead pack.
Looked like quite a bit of nose to tail in that turn 1 complex, but not enough to do any damage to cars, so probably a good thing.
Yeah, just a little bit of checking, and immediately Coleman's put 0.8 of a second over Dan Magri and become a second. So he is starting to set out. The problem for him, though, is can he do anything to start running down Dee McKay? That margin out over 6 seconds up ahead as well. So that's quite a long way. And I did just hear Eli Donaldson just apologising. So that might have been the contact that we were referencing back from turn 2.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that gap for Owen Coleman. We know that Owen's a very smart driver. He might not necessarily want to just be burning up too much fuel to make that gap. He might be thinking that he still needs to save a bit of fuel and he'll get it through pit stop cycles. So you and I both know that Owen's one of those drivers where not everything as you see it is exactly what's going on in his head, and he pulls up these surprises and pops out in front of people. So we'll just watch that gap and we'll report that as it goes. Currently it's just sitting at 6.3 seconds. It's been there for most of the lap. He has pulled away nearly 1 second now from Dan Magri, who has Wallace about half a second behind. So Dan Magri's not necessarily pulling away from Wallace too much, but Wallace is still under pressure from Jeffrey, Shaw and Chapman. So this race has got a long way to go, and I think there's still a little bit of settling to go.
It's also an interesting prospect. Put yourself in Eli Donaldson's shoes at this point in time, right? He sits 13th. He's in this pack of cars, but he's in the Challenger class. Now, let's just say he stays in the Challenger class for the rest of the season and nothing happens. I'm going to give you a couple different stories for the fans and the viewers to watch along at home and consider. Well, should that happen, he doesn't need to get the elbows out. Doesn't need to really see if he can do any overtaking. But, is that yellow and blue Audi that we can see just a few places ahead. Adam Jepson we're following along at the moment. But the thing that's sort of really concerning, Pete, is that if all of us... Oh, there's contact! There is contact! Jacob Hughes has just got around. Was trying to get down the inside. I think it might have been on Rain Campbell. No, it might have been Trent Allen. It would have been Trent Allen. He was trying to get down the inside of. So we might have the opportunity for a second replay of the night here. So Trent Allen's not going to get the best run, and Hughes senses an opportunity, tries to fire it down the inside a little bit late. Does get turned in on. It's a
little
very
bit
sharp
late,
corner.
I think. Yep, a little bit late. I don't think he really had a chance to get in there, and he was relying on two people to party to be able to make that overtake, and he's just got a bit of a touch on the front of the car and lost him. Maybe if he was in the Lambo, that wouldn't have happened, Scotty. But I did say I'm going to pull that out on Jacob every time. But no, look, you're right, and let's go back to Eli Donaldson. You're talking about Eli and whether he should overtake or not. Here's the one thing that is in the back of my mind for Eli. If Eli proves that he's actually an elite contender, then after the first 2 rounds, the league admin might actually look at Eli and say, hey, dude, we got you in the wrong class. We need you to move up to elite. So I think Eli has to race, and I think he has to race as fast as he can. If that means he becomes an elite driver by about round 2 and compete, has to fight it, I think that's where he's at right now. So because there's still that element of test and adjust first 2 seasons. There's another car's gone around. Scotty, over to you.
Yeah, so another Porsche as well has gone around, but I don't think we've seen Porsche things been going. It's Vinny Nguyen for Frog Leap Juice Racing has found himself a hole in the traffic to get back out there and around. He looks like he is going to go around on his own and in a little bit hot. No, it does get contact, but he was trying to protect the rear end of that car and get that one restabilized there, Pete.
Yeah, it's the classic case of Porsche doing Porsche things. That is Porsche. Oh, no, he's got a touch there. He's got a touch from... oh, the broadcast is in my ear saying I can't say Porsche things anymore, which is his classic claim to fame. But anyway, I'm going to keep calling it because he's called me out on that many, many times, and I think a good Porsche driver won't let a Porsche do Porsche things. And there we go. We just see one get a tap and get a turnaround. Unfortunately, that's it. Hey, Scotty, big question in the YouTube chat. How do you guys like the new Revolution E-Racing team?
Yeah, look, I mean, doing well, for a reasonable start here tonight. The difficulty is, one night thus far. What's it going to look like as they continue on? But for Trent Allen, he's making a reasonable start of things. And the car, I mean, the paintwork does look good on the Mustang, I will say. Does look very, very good on the Mustang.
Yeah, I got to say, when I was in the practice session, I did jump to Adam Berhalp at one stage. And went, "Oh, that's a fresh new team. Look at that!" And a bit of red, white, and blue. So a bit of an American influence in the livery, maybe. But and given that the Olympics on, maybe it's something we shouldn't back at this, for 2 weeks at least. But look, with Adam there and. Trent Allen, have we got any other drivers in there? But it's good to see some new themes and some new colours.
Leith McClimate, his Mercedes is done in the exact same colours, but it's really interesting to see them both in Mustangs as well. And those 2 guys have been working quite hard between themselves, Berhalp and Allen, to try and get the Mustangs tuned out. I mean, inside the top 10. It's generally considered to not be the strongest of the GT3s at the moment. It certainly sits underneath, say, the top 3, the Porsche, the Audi, and the Ferrari. I consider your top 3. The BMW sort of sits in between, probably on the next rung, and then behind that's the BMW and the Corvette sort of sit on that next rung, and then the Mustangs underneath that. And there's only one person that's asking where does the McLaren sit, so we don't need to answer that question.
Wow, no, but hang on. We have got a McLaren in this race, and Rui Coister's sitting very well. He's currently in P20. It's that pink one that's a little bit behind the broadcast there with the mouth wide open, ready to swallow, and the flames coming out. They've got old McLaren, so it's good to see someone has chosen it. Right, but there's not a bone in me, Scotty, that can say the Merc doesn't rate on that scale.
I can. I think Merc, BMW, and Chevy all sit in that sort of B class of the GT3s. Your top of the line GT3 is definitely Audi, Porsche, and Ferrari. I considered your top 3 for sure, but then that's second rung, and then the Mustang's probably the next rung underneath that as well. So, but look, there are some drivers that are going to figure it out. It's one of those cars that's going to take a lot of figuring out. I like the fact that it's come in unlike the Lamborghini, the Ferrari, and the Porsche when they all entered, and they went straight at the top, right? And then it took some balancing, it took some tweaks to sort of make them into what they are and find their zone. And the Porsche has still been significantly prominent, right? So look, I prefer cars to come in and be a little bit underdone, and then they get their touches up, rather than it comes in, it's the best car, you've got to drive it.
Was that Matty Skulls that just overshot that last corner there, I think? What's he driving there? Looks like he's in the Ferrari there. Yeah, he just had a crack at Jacob Hughes in the last corner. Just undershot it a bit. There he is in the FINA-based Ferrari.
I think he's just missed his brake marker.
Just missed it totally, yeah. Lost a couple of spots and just settled in. So, yeah, nothing too dramatic, but, yeah, Matty's been fast, and Matty's also done a lot of supercar driving now. So changing between the supercar and the GT3 is not an easy thing to do. So you've really got to spend some time when you change, just to tune yourself to the different variations of the aerodynamics and the gear changes and the way the cars work. So, yeah, good on Matty. We mightn't see him as high as possible because he's swapping between cars, but he's a hell of a talented driver.
Yeah. And how have you been doing competing against him lately in the supercar, by the way, Pete? Have you managed?
He's half a second faster than me a lap.
Well, I thought I'd try.
No, but I'm getting decent results because it's like a classic case of consistency. Matty's driving fast, and the league that we're in, there's a little bit of sheep stations for some of the positions, and consequently, can find himself in a little bit of trouble with other drivers that are protecting positions maybe a bit too hard, or he's fighting a bit too hard. And so the results aren't always there. When he has a good race, he has a great race. When he has a bad race, it's down the road. So, am I competing with him on track? I'm driving a V8 supercar on the same track as him, but when he's near me, I just open the door and let him go.
That's one way to describe it, Pete. Very well done. But yeah, no, I was just curious. Just for those of you who don't know, watching along at home, Pete did get a podium. It's been a very, very long time since Pete's got a podium. So there's a little bit of celebration for that. And happy birthday for the other day as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm far too old to be doing something like sim racing, although we do compete in V8 bet. And Scully's there with me, but no, I've had a good week, and just had a bit of a birthday celebration for the weekend. So I'm still glad I made it to commentary duties on Sunday night, mate.
Oh, I was glad, actually. I was looking forward to actually getting to hang out again and talk a little bit of GT3 racing action with you. So I'm actually kind of really glad that you're here, because I was expecting you not to be, and celebrating an extra birthday. So thank you for that. In the meantime, did have a quick question coming about Rick Provenzali is still circulating. Yes, he is. Update on that car, by the way. He does actually have some damage to the left rear corner. So something has happened to Rick, and I think he's been carrying that damage since the very first lap of the race, and indeed he has been. So I just went back and double checked the condition on that car. So something happened to Rick on lap number 1. It was just a tiny touch up from James Mason in a BMW as they were fighting for about 24th, 25th position, which is both approximately where they are on track at the moment. Both of them still in and around that area. I'll tell you what I am learning about this track thus far is that the GT3s are having a lot of difficulty with getting far enough up to get an overtake done.
Yeah, I mean, but it is a bit of a short stop and shoot track. Although the long straight is a good straight, but that first that we're just watching Fozzie drive through now, the complex of the first two turns. It's part of the track where you've really got to struggle to keep the car balanced, because you're braking at the same time you're cornering, and it's not just as simple as a really long straight with something like a hairpin where you can have a braking duel. You can't really do that because you're so focused on trying to keep the car balanced that you can't duel, and if you try and duel, you're just going to lose control of the car. So it looks like an opportunity to overtake. I don't think it is. I think the opportunities to overtake are more around the sort of 5-6 mark. But again, that's another set of corners. It's kind of like the sort of hairpin at Bahrain Formula One track, where the cars are off balance in the brakes, and then you've got the straight on the back. That if you get a good run and get that straight on the back, it's not long enough for the draft to work. So Yeah, we might be in for a bit of a chain drive and maybe a strategy drive in pits more than pure overtaking, Scotty.
Yeah, and if we have a look a little bit further back up towards the front, which is where we are right now, we're looking at Dan Magri, who sits fourth on the road, and how this battle up front has progressed. Well, Wallace has recovered a little bit since Owen Coleman managed to get through, because all of that checking up. The big thing for me that I've learned about that, though, is that his pace is actually reasonably good. The problem was that he was having to cover so much. And that's what was damaging his pace, really. Now that Coleman's gotten through, yes, Coleman's now 4.5 seconds down the road, but the pace has recovered. And he's now in with a really good battle, and him and Dan Magri look very, very evenly matched, and this is probably going to go right the way down to the flag, barring a mistake will be the big thing besides these few guys.
Yeah, it was clear Owen was much faster. I think Dan Magri took an opportunity, but it's clear here Dan's not necessarily that much faster. And yeah, Wallace has probably settled his car down, cooled his tyres. He's back on the proper racing line. He's not defending. And there, consequently, Dan Magri's not pulling away. But yeah, Owen Coleman over the last sort of 4 or 5 laps has managed to just pull 2 seconds out of Steve Mackay and just sort of work his way back. But Ben Woods is still running out the front pretty comfortably. But I tell you what, if I was Ben Woods and Steve Mackay, I'd be subtly keeping an eye on that gap from Owen Coleman. Yeah, Owen Coleman will come from nowhere and snatch victory out of you like stealing a lolly from a child.
That's actually a good point you make, because it was over the last sort of, let's talk 4 laps, we're about to get on the time. 0.6 of a second he took it at Dean Mackay, although I expect that was probably a mistake. 0.3 of a second out of him, 0.2, and now on this current lap he's taken 0.4 of a second. So Coleman is coming, and it will be a matter of when, I think, not if. The only thing that can really sort of slow that progress will be some sort of damage. Something's just happened to it, because somebody's just peeled off and gone to the pit lane from down around, I think, the mid-20s at this point in time. I don't know who that was.
Chris Ruddle's gone into the pits.
Chris Ruddle, and he was slow in the final sector, so I don't know if that's an unplanned stop, but I would expect that one certainly to be. That's quite early in terms of things. So whether or not there was a mistake with getting the correct amount of fuel on board that car prior to the race.
I'm just trying to find it now. I'll see if you can find it, but he's gone in. He's had a fairly long pit stop, still sort of sitting in the pit stop.
Well, the other side of this could be the front end of the pit lane window opening to get to the end of the race on a 2-stopper, which will lock us into a 2-stopper, like you said. So,
no, I've got a feeling. Oh no, he's on an out lap. So.
Yeah, not showing anything for Chris on that lap or preceding laps either. So, looks like he's A-okay, and we'll continue on. Whether or not there might have been something beside the sim rig that needed a very quick adjustment as well. And this gave him the best opportunity to do so. Either way, pit stop now served and back out and into the race, as we're keeping an eye on the Trent Allen Revolution Racing car.
Yeah, no, I've just watched Chris's in lap. It's a run-of-the-mill in lap, nothing of the ordinary in the Sudspeed Porsche, the big Porsche that he's running. Standard out lap. So yeah, Scotty, it might be the start of the pit stop cycle. 15 laps in. That's early. I think that's really early, but yeah, there we go.
Another story I've just noticed deeper in the field as well. Nick Bottrell started 27th. I did hear him on the radio on the opening lap, but I'm not seeing any damage to the Valve Esports Audi. He sits 39th on the road right now, and trying to make some time to the cars around him, but not necessarily going too far forward. Jimmy Middleton sits 41st currently. And yeah, Chris Ruddle's really the only major mover. Adrian Gretsch has actually made 9 spots. The only concern I have with that is he going to make the end of the race on fuel or not? Because it's not just to make 9 spots, but you'll lose them all in the last lap if you run out of fuel.
Well, Adrian's known for short fuel in his car, isn't he? But it's a little bit of a habit that he's got. And if he's running light on fuel, then he's going to make some spots up. But to be able to make spots up on what we've sort of deducted is a track that's quite difficult to find spots on. So Adrian's actually doing quite well, but we've got to watch that. I was thinking about the Chris Rattle pit stop, Scotty, and you might be right. This could be the opening of a double critical lap sort of stop, and it might just be a case of if Chris has felt like he's being held up, let's just get out there, find some clear air, and see if I can get a bit of an undercut advantage. And get out there and get some track time, because that's the kind of thing that I do, as you know. So, as soon as you feel like you're getting held up, something's got to change, because you can't be held up for too long. Get out there, do something different, find yourself some clear air, and see if you can get some advantage of it. You don't always make something of it, but if you don't try, you'll never know.
There's always new names in between each and every one of the seasons, and not only do we have a new name to the series, but we also have a new name on the sponsors list. Matt Webber is joined the series and has only just recently made his way onto the iRacing platform and sim racing in general. He's the owner of Dash Off Road, and they've come on board the series to support them from a sponsorship perspective as well. Matt's entered the sim quite quickly, found his feet very quickly, and made his way into the elite class as a debut driver that's, not been on the sim for all that long. That's incredible to note. And he's actually the blue Ferrari at the tail end of that pack. You can just sort of see is Jamie Saxon in behind him. I believe that's that pink, red, and black Ferrari towards the tail end of the field. And that's the blue Ferrari that we're looking at the moment is Matt Webber.
Yeah, that's pretty good to jump into sim and get straight into the elite class. Now I'm jealous, Scotty. What are we doing watching dudes like that for? Slow down.
Just ahead of these guys. There's actually just been some contact. Matt Carrick's just had a little bit of a bump with Rick Provenzali. So Provenzali's got the bumper out yet again. I can tell you James Mason's having a crack. So this will tell the story. A little bit of a check-up because they're all trying to get after Rukoistra. Slices it down the inside, gets it pulled up. I tell you what, he got turned in on there.
He got turned in on. He had a lot of overlap there too. So, he got turned in on. It's probably, I'm sure the race control guys will have a look at it. I don't think Ricky actually reported. Talking about race control, Jacob Hughes has received a 10-second penalty for an incident that he caused on lap 9. So that's now out there. Jack might have to take that during his pit stop or carry that through to the end of the race. So we'll have to keep that in mind when we see Hughesy finish. I reckon if Hughesy was driving a Lambo, he wouldn't have got that penalty.
Well, he actually said on a podcast he was going to be driving the Mustang. He was so keen to drive the Mustang. So I can tell you there was some annoyance when he showed up tonight in the Porsche. But anyway, character of the league he is. You know what? Matt Carrick's actually reasonably made some time. He's down to 22nd. I was about to say he's done a phenomenal job to overtake a couple of cars. Other way around, he's actually lost 3 spots. Started in out of 19th. Alfonso Latella's the car that's just ahead of him on the road. Remember, won that famous race at the tail end of last season in the Ferrari and immediately goes trying to cut corners and get this spot off Rukoistra, who has become the cork in the bottle for 21st on back. And looks like he's struggling for grip at the front end. And we got one more car that's now just dived to the pit lane as well. So it looks like the stops have started in earnest to the inside. Deep in there. There was contact made. Latella's going to rotate. And he'll be forced to sit and wait.
And he's got a long wait too because there's a fair few cars coming behind him. He might lose about 20 positions out of this. He is dropping down quick. He's down to P32, P33. He hasn't got going yet. We'll see when he gets going. But yeah, he's lost a hell of a lot of positions. He'll have to call that in. I think that's going to be...
it's still going. And that's Provenzali gone around now. Ricky will get the rejoin. He got it done in time, just. He couldn't have afforded to wait any longer. And it was contact with the right sim racing car out of that pack, which was Matt Carrick, has triggered that one. So
that's exactly what I was saying earlier, Scotty. That turn 1-2 complex, very, very difficult turn to go too wide because you're braking on a turning point to try and slow the car down through several gears. And if you're doing that side by side, it's really easy, particularly in a Porsche, one of the rear engine cars, just to lose a bit of control. So yeah, very, very difficult spot, and it makes this track just a little bit harder to overtake. Ricky's just proven that point for me. He was on the inside, he touched a little bit of curve, and that curve at turn 1 there will unbalance the cars as they touch that. It's a bit of a ripply curve, and it has a really good effect. It shakes the car right through, and that's just upset the Porsche, and it's lost him a lot of positions as a result.
Rue Coister just dived the lane. Matt Carrick had actually just finally built overlap, and Rue just went, yep, all right, sweet. Going to dive into the lane. So now he'll come to the lane. 34 minutes on the clock at this point in time, and a quarter of the race distance done thus far.
Yeah, no, Nick Wood's in the chat. I'm sorry, how come we haven't seen Nick Wood on the track again? Nick's one of those drivers who was produced really well in the past seasons, but Nick's asked about the fuel limit, and we're getting close to what we're going to see. 65% fuel tank is the fuel tank limit for tonight, so just a little bit different from 60% to 65, a little bit more. I'm expecting the window's going to open up in about another 5 laps time, so lap 26, lap 27 is really going to be where we're going to see the majority of the fuel stops, and that will open up the options for the second fuel stop and make that window a lot wider. So we'll see who's saving fuel, see who's been driving hard, see who's been using fuel, but it also stands out that the likes of Rue Cloister and Chris Ruddle have gone in for early pit stops and see whether they can shake the race up with a big undercut.
By the way, do you remember that margin from Owen Coleman to the race leaders? Was out, what, about 7, 8 seconds? Right. Somewhere in that realm?
6.4 seconds.
It was? It used to be 6.4 seconds. Well, now it's down to 5.4. As he is really starting to make some time. And I tell you what, Nick Bottrell's also just come to the lane. He's just rejoined between Dean Mackay and Owen Coleman. So that's the battle pack at the moment for P4 that we're looking at. Wallace is still managing to hang on. Hasn't really gained ground, hasn't lost any ground at the moment. Pretty much the same for everyone in this pack as it currently stands. So
I love this comment, Scotty. Wouldn't be a PEL race without Ricky looping it around at least once. I reckon that's partially fair, but it's only true when Jimmy Middleton adds to the pain as well.
And finally, we're starting to see a few mistakes now out of Dan Magri. So the battle for 4th place is heating up. Magri made a little bit of mistake down at turn 3. Ran a little bit wide in on the brakes, and that's allowed for everyone to close up just a fraction. They'll settle all back down in for now. Just trying to grab where our best battle pack. Somebody went around, I think, at turn 1. There was somebody that was just around at turn 1, and I don't know who it was, unless it was Alfonso Latella blinking, which it might have been Alfonso Latella. Although we've got update on Vinny Newen as well. Between Rob Edwards and Tom Williams, which is starting to close up just a little bit. Deeper in the field. There we go. There is a moment out there for Martin Lipsky. It was at the final corner.
Yeah, Martin's having a bit of a tough run. This is a big introduction to PEL for Martin. Currently running down in 45th. Hasn't pitted yet either. So big introduction. And all I can say is enjoy the race, Marty, get the most out of it, and keep coming back, and you will get faster.
Update on... Okay, so this is... We finally understand the logic into what goes on behind things for Jacob Hughes. The car choice, it was not made by Jacob Hughes. He couldn't decide upon which GT3 to run, so he had an AI pick the car for him.
Oh, that's gold. I'll tell you, I've used AI for a couple of things, like for writing articles and for doing some of those sort of cartoon things about car launches and things like that. But for it to say, pick my car for the next 7 seasons of PL, that's a gutsy call.
He's gone with it too, so we'll see if it works for him. And in the meantime, I can tell you Adam Jepson has now pit out of that lead pack as well. So that says to me that it's going to be a difficult 2-stopper, and it might shift its way onto the 3 because he's committed to it. We are 38 minutes, 40 seconds into this race. We are 1 minute and 20 seconds or so shy of 1/3 race distance. And the more difficult split to actually make it on fuel is always that first one with the long formation lap as well. Although the benefit of the formation lap helps you get through 48 cars that made the grid.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, that's instead of 49 cars all standing start and then trying to bail into the first corner without a little bit of a spread. So, yeah, so maybe you burn a little bit of fuel on the formation lap, not too much if you're really smart and do it right. But no, we're running at lap 24. So I expected the next 3 laps we're going to see the leaders come in and run through the first pit cycle. If there are many more than lap 27, that's going to surprise me. But I think 27 is probably my marker for everybody.
Well, we're going to come up on 40 minutes race distance now, and that'll be 25 at the end of the 24th lap. So that certainly answers that question. Anyone that's gone a little bit early and then that's not going to make it in terms of things. So race leaders down in the final sector at this point in time, and they've continued on for another lap. So that will certainly decide things. It's definitely going to be a 2-stopper, particularly out in front with the clear air. Like if Ben Woods can do it at the front end of the field, then it should be doable by just about everyone.
Right, Benn Jeffery's the first of our leaders to go in, followed by Stuart Shaw.
Oh, contact! That was contact from Daryl O'Sullivan in the Twisted Key Racing entry, who falls a few spots. It was it was Chris Withers, I believe. He just made contact with, and now he's going to run it deep again. So Withers will slide back through underneath, and they finally get themselves sorted out. And then Dean Hunt, who was involved in that lap 1 crash, slides on through as he continues trying to keep his racing night alive. He just needs a safety car, Dean, and he should be back in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Field's really starting to spread out as we get to the end of this first stint. As I said, we've seen 4 or 5 cars of the leaders come in already now. So Ben Jeffery, Stu Shaw, the first of the leaders. Adam Burhop's in the pits. Adrian Greck's in the pits, so he's getting a little bit more fuel. Stefan Lawrence, plenty are coming into the pits this lap, and I think we're just going to see more and more, and this race will normalise itself after about 2 more laps.
Interesting to note, James Mason, by the way, did the overcut on Rue Koistra, and he's where they've popped out on track right now. There's a lot of traffic, which would be worthwhile checking in. There's a few more cars that pit out of that train as well. So for those guys, they're losing a lot of lap time as Rain Campbell pits and comes back out. I thought he was a little bit further down the road, Rain Campbell. So I wonder whether or not there's a speeding or pit lane entry infringement for Campbell out of that one. So long stop for Rain Campbell means that there was definitely a penalty in the mix, unfortunately for him, which is going to lose him a little bit of track position. We'll slot back out just ahead of Rue Koistra. And this is where the strategy starts to get mixed up, because our race leaders have now just made their way into pit lane. The only one to go on for another lap was Owen Coleman. So
yeah, what does that tell you, Scotty? What are we saying about Owen Coleman and his ability to run fast but save fuel?
yeah, and he's gone significantly past the marker as well. So now he is going to make savings. He's not just cutting a pit stop out. Now he's actually going to make savings in terms of fuel burn as well, which means that that fuel add at the final stop is going to be less. It's going to be less by some tune as well, because each lap's probably worth about a second in terms of the pit stop. In the meantime, we keep an eye on this battle pack at the tail end. That's Rue Koistra trying to slide down the inside. Leith McClimate does get to the inside. Wonder if Leith does know that he needs to pit. He's still alongside, so half the field, bulk of the field now has completed their first stop. We're just waiting on a few stragglers to get to the lane. It's an interesting pit lane entry as well too, Pete. It's very tricky because it's the right-hand side of the road, which is the inside of the track. You don't often see an inside of the track pit lane entry.
No, and it shortcuts the last section too. So, so it is pretty cool. It's one of those things why we have a rule that you can't go on the pits on the last lap, because essentially you could drive up pit lane and shortcut a whole bit of the track and across the start-finish line earlier. So, that's for those guys. Did you call Owen Coleman a straggler?
Well, I called him a straggler in terms of a straggler to lane. So one more driver has managed to stay out and do the extra lap. It was one of those drivers that did manage to pull the fuel save strategy last season from Aragon. That's where he picked up his race win. Richard Mair, one of the two owners of Sud Speed, Prius Racing gloves. I've got a sad story actually about my pair of Sud Speed gloves. I turned my back for 5 seconds the other day, and I was in the sim racing room and getting prepared to do some IndyCar racing, all things. I went, oh, I forgot my water bottle. Walked out of the room, walked back into the room, found my dog chewing on the thumb of my left hand of my glove, and there is now a thumb hole instead of a pad, which I'm quite disappointed about because I'm still enjoying my Sud Speed gloves.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the guys from Sud Speed will cover a lot of things, but probably not dogs' teeth.
She doesn't chew on many things as well. It's the first time she's stolen a few socks, but hasn't chewed on them. It was the first thing of clothing-wise she's actually stolen and chewed on. So, and of course, it had to be.
Yeah, it talks the quality of the Sud Speed glove, mate. You know, it's got the dog nose.
She's got good taste. Yeah.
Yeah, got good taste, and yeah.
I don't know. Anything can happen when you put something like that up for Richard Mair and Chris Ruddle. They might use it for marketing. You never know. Even dogs select Sud Speed racing gloves.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, the best chew that's not a bone available in the sim world.
I'm just very glad I stopped it before she got any further than the thumb hole. It's still usable, but disappointing now. Anyway, so there is two more that do need to make their pit stop. One of them has now entered the pit lane, the other on his way in. So James Saxon and Richard Mair have now come down to the pit lane. And that means the field will be cleansed, and we get an opportunity for the first time tonight to have a little bit of a look at what the strategy looks like after that pit stop. I'm just keeping half an eye on whether Owen Coleman made ground. Owen Coleman lost ground through that pit lane cycle, by the way. So Dean Mackay actually made quite a significant amount of margin because he was not attached to Ben Woods when they came into the pits, and on the way out he is. So that says to me that maybe Dean did save some fuel, or maybe a second worth of fuel.
Well, Owen's had to put, because he would have filled the tank up, so he's had an extra lap of fuel usage that he would have had to put in. That probably doesn't account for 5 seconds, because he was 3 seconds behind Dean. He's now 8.5 seconds, so he seems to have lost. Maybe it was just a slow entry or a slow outlap or something for Owen, which is kind of a bit odd. But if it is to do with fuel saving, he's just taking the time, up the hurt that feels in the first bit, make up the time over the next sort of 2/3 of the race, plenty of time to get it back. And then if he's got spare fuel, spare capacity, he saves that in the second stint, and then may be able to jump Dean and Ben Woods in that second stint. But he's got some work ahead of him right now. He's got to bring that 8 seconds down to probably about 3 again before he gets into the next stint. So the next real trigger point I'm looking for, Scotty, is lap 45. Because that would tell me that we're about the critical lap, so you can come in, fill up your tank to 65% and make it to the end from 45, but that doesn't necessarily mean these guys are going to do it. They can run another 26, 27 laps, so that'll put them into about 54, 55.
Adam Jepson has just lost the rear end of that Ferrari. And that's not... I was thinking for a moment that it is in the final sector, because that's the pit lane he's just driven back over right there. So this was the fight with one of the Evolution Racing team drivers. And gets the inside, crawls over the curb and does it on his own.
Yeah, that's just curb influence, that is. These curbs here, they're quite bumpy, and the new 3D effect that iRacing has put in the curbs yeah, that's nothing more than touching the curbs, and he's got a little bit of accelerator. He's just lost it all on his own there. So, yeah, Adam's going to have to fight back and find those positions back.
Yeah, frustrating for Adam, but still happening inside the first hour, gives him some time to recover. I can tell you our race leader is dealing with a lot of lap traffic at this point in time, so Ben Woods has just had to get the elbows out a little bit on Braden O'Loughlin, who's still going to be in the middle of Dean Mackay. At this point in time, he's finally managed to deal with that one. And Jimmy Middleton will be the next car that will be to go a one lap down, and it's 49 minutes. Will be on the clock in just a few seconds, as we get to the latter stages of the first hour of racing.
There we go, Scotty. So, you know, we're nearly an hour in. So, round 1, season 4. As much as things change, it looks like they might have stayed a little bit the same. We've got the same names up the top. We haven't really seen any new challenges come out and pop. It's sort of the same group.
Yes.
You know, their broadcasters showing the Porsches doing Porsche things and pointing them out to me in the background, ladies and gentlemen. You know, very proud of his call, but come on, Porsche drivers, you can do better than that.
And probably the biggest mover that I'm just sort of keeping half an eye on at this point in time is actually Matt Scholes. He's now, remember, he was sitting just outside the 20 or so, and since the pit stops, moved himself up to 17. James Mason has made good work out of that stop as well. He's moved himself from 25th on the grid to 20th. The next car in behind him is Foster. Foster's also on the move from 26th to 21st, and in terms of our challenger standings as well, sits second on the road. Third on the road for the challenger standings at the moment is Jamie Saxon, and he's now going to be right up behind Rue Koistra, and Chris Ruddle will actually be the next car on the track. There's about 3 seconds between those two guys. There will be probably a battle for third place in terms of your challenger standings in the near future.
Yeah, and you know, Eli Donaldson's still well and truly out there. You know, 10 places ahead of Mason. We've got Mason there as in the challenger class on the broadcast. I've got him in the elite class, so we might have to check that with Mason, whether he's elite or a challenger in terms of those colours. But yeah, I think yeah, Fozzie's got a fair bit of a gap there to catch Eli Donaldson. He is cruising in terms of the colour class. Like I said, I think that could still be up for review. So Eli's going to race as hard as he can. Fozzie's going to race as hard as he can in the there it is. It's just sitting there behind James Mason's car in that lime green milkshake machine. Now driving, he used to drive for McLaren. It used to be a hot little thing, all lime green. But he's got these other colours on there now. It's like chocolate coated, and but he's got the Chevy out. And, you know, he's gone from the McLaren to the Chevy. Yeah, probably should have stuck with the McLaren as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, don't change if you don't need to.
Is it just me, or is he got itchy feet with his cars? Because he's changed cars every single season. So,
well, to be honest, mate, there is a whole lot of thinking if you're coming into a series. But yeah, we just seen a no further action for an incident between car 197 on lap 29 ignoring blue flags. So race controls looked at that and applied a fair bit of discretion there. And yeah, you got to pull over for blue flags, but you don't have to do it instantaneously.
No, yeah, and that was the key.
And, yeah, some drivers sort of expect, right up the back, he's going to pull over straight away. But no, you need to facilitate it at a decent time, but you don't necessarily have to cost your own races. But I was going to say, Scotty, if you're going into a new series like this, you know it's highly competitive. You know there's two classes.
Something happened to Ben Woods. We might have just lost our race leader, Pete, by the way. I think we've just lost Ben Woods from the server, because I'm not tracking timing for him at the moment. So I think we might have just lost our race leader, which means Dean Mackay would actually be leading the race at this point in time.
Yeah, you're right. He has just disappeared. So that is a hardware failure. Yeah, so Scotty, we talked about this before too, Scotty. To be able to win these races, your hardware's got to work. It's the same as a 20-cent part on a car. It's got to work the whole time for the car to go well. Well, your 20-cent part on your simulator and your Wi-Fi connection's got to be maintained the whole thing for you to win a race. So unfortunately for Ben Woods, he's dropped out. He's right out of this race. Hopefully he can get a reconnect, get in and get some points for the rest of the season. That might make a difference. But yeah, that's a shame, especially when he's the race leader. Hey.
Yeah, sometimes it's simple. I was trying to play some games actually with some friends of mine earlier on, and the cat jumped up and pressed the reset button on my computer, right? You can actually swap what the power buttons do on your computer, but you can't swap what the reset button does, quite crucially. And because he has a habit of walking over the power button on my computer quite regularly, I've disabled that one, basically made it so the power button does nothing on my computer now. It's just when the computer's actually turned on. Just because he's turned that off a whole bunch of times, but he still finds a way. So it could be something animal related, could be a power cord that's been pulled, could be power that's been tripped, could be hardware failure entirely. Probably one of the weirdest stories I've ever had was I was actually doing a NASCAR race recently, and long-standing good buddy of mine in the Australian NASCAR fraternity was Carl Whitty, does a whole bunch of commentary work and stuff as well, was coming out of the pit lane after serving his pit, and I think he was only 2 spots behind me when he did actually pit, and as he was actually rejoining the track out in turn 1, a cat's jumped up on his monitor and knocked his entire monitor stand down over and onto his wheel. He just rejoined the track straight in front of me. So, it does happen.
So maybe it's the thing with cats, right? We had new kitten just before the Nürburgring 24-hour race I think we're about to do. We got a new kitten in the household. And during practice, he jumped on my modem and walked across it and turned it off. So he pushed the button. So I had to quickly get out and cut open a Coke bottle and devise a little guard for the buttons on the top of my modem, so the little kitten wouldn't walk across the top and turn them
Coke bottle, that's a good idea. Yeah, okay. I might have to invest in that, actually. I've been trying to come up with a way to protect it. Yeah, that's actually a smart idea. I hadn't been able to come up with anything. So there you go.
I'll send you a photo of the little fix, Scotty. But yeah, he hasn't done it since. But the little critter has the ability to walk across the top of the sound bar and at midnight, while I must be watching some Formula 1 Grand Prix, turn it up to like super loud and wake the missus up, and I'm in all sorts of trouble. No, it's not me, it's the cat. So hopefully, Ben, if you've got a kitty story, then that's what's caused your connection. Please let us know, and we can pass it on and sympathise with you wholeheartedly. If it's just a connection issue, oh no, we still sympathise with you, man. You're running well, and you're certainly, it was going to be a fight to the end of the race. So really sorry to see you drop out like that, and especially from such a strong position in the race.
Yeah, and battle for what now becomes 3rd place on the road is not going away as well, which is the battle that we're just keeping an eye on this point in time. Magri's still got it after the pit stop from Wallace, and Benn Jeffery still sitting there, just not able to make a move at this point in time. Although if Jeffery can just start to rattle the cage, if you will, of Tommy Wallace just a little bit. We've already seen how defensive Wallace wants to get when he is put under pressure. So I don't know if Benn Jeffery does know about that yet. But he certainly is in range.
Yeah, but if he starts just sneaking up, getting a little bit closer and putting his car in the mirrors left and right, and that might put Wallace into a position where, do I defend or do I just try and keep running with Magri? So it's a really good time to put the pressure on, and there he is starting to do it. He's just going to a little bit of things, and that was enough. That he's put a little bit of pressure on there. Wallace
now they're going to make contact.
Wallace has turned in a little bit, made a little bit of contact, and away we go. But there we go.
Now Ben Jeffery gets really loose under braking now as well, and now somebody else is going to fire down the inside. Sam Chapman. So Sam Chapman's managed to make his way past Stuart Shaw. And Wallace is about to get assaulted by 2 Porsches, one on the inside, one on the outside. Shaw pulled out. Chapman did not. Chapman had a go at him. Not quite done. Finally resolves itself. And again, I was just thinking for just a few moments that it might be the same story. Now there's going to be more contact as Stuart Shaw makes contact with Sam Chapman and runs out a little bit wide on the final corner. Finally, they will settle themselves down after an interesting lap. And Tommy Wallace needs to find some consistency because he's just been boxed about the ears since qualifying ended.
Oh, he is, mate. And he's probably just had a super qualifying effort. Maybe qualified a few spots faster than he probably is, but he's defending well, he's racing well, and good on you, Tommy Wallace. Stay out there and stay as high as you can. That's what racing's all about. There's a slow car there on the track, but yeah, I stay out there, Tommy, and
something's happened to
give it the best.
Chinist Raguana, and he's rejoining now. So this will tell what happened for him to end up there. I think he's actually trying to let traffic go. Is actually what he's trying to do.
Yeah,
and then there's just so many cars coming through.
Yeah, too many cars to go. But yeah, there we go. Ben's jumped on the YouTube, and just a power outage. So just go and make sure there's no cats outside, Ben. Turn any switches off. But yeah, mate, sorry to see you fall out of the race. We were really enjoying you leading that, and hopefully you'll come back stronger next race and get out there and give it a real crack. Somebody needs to beat Owen Coleman.
Might be Dean Mackay. We're leaving our hopes with Dean Mackay here tonight. So
yeah, that's right. We've got another no further action. So race control been on the ball. No further action for car 252, which there was an incident on that 31 there. But yeah, no, the races are going well. These guys are starting to hot up and get a little bit feisty, Scotty. So the first hour was pretty calm, and we had Tommy Wallace just holding up a few cars. It took a while for Team Mair to get around. But as soon as somebody put a little bit of a sniff on him, we got a little bit more entertainment. So, we're now within the hour to go. We're leading up to the point where the second pit stops start to become really important. But yeah, are we going to get a little bit of hot action, Scotty, do you reckon, as we go in this race? Do you reckon there's a safety car in our future or not?
I don't think so. And just having a look at the sim time, just to sort of give people along at home, some relevance. That track's going to cool off from here. It's 30 degrees Celsius out on the ground at the moment, 23 degrees Celsius in terms of air temperature, but it's 6:30 p.m. in sim. From this point onwards, over the next hour, I'd expect that track temp to come down a little bit, so we could see lap times improving towards the tail end of this one.
Yeah, and those that have looked after their tyres and been able to run really hot with a cooler track will certainly get in there as the fuel tanks are light. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, some more to come, and we can see there that the car's just sitting there and letting us go. So good on him. It's that Janish Ragwani just finding his feet in the Premier Endurance League season. He's doing everything right as a back marker as far as I'm concerned. He's still out in the race. He's allowed to be in the race. He's entered. He's got a fair car to get out there. And he might have just got a bit of a wake-up call about how fast some of these guys really are. But he's doing everything right as a back marker and letting the race go on and then getting through it as far as he can and getting to the finish line as fast as he can. So, shout out to you, Anish. Get out there and keep racing. Lots of practice, and we'll see you improve over the course of the season.
Yep. And particularly with this heading to Misano later on in the season, it's probably worthwhile having a little bit of a chat about the calendar and indeed what the calendar looks like for the season, because 7 rounds, so it's an expansion of the previous series whereby we were running only the 5 rounds as well, so that's got a lot more sort of to play into things. I was just watching Daniel Finney, I think, just made a mistake down at turn 3 as well, ran very, very wide, so a lot continuing to go on up and down the field. It's just about trying to catch it at the moment when it does actually happen.
Yeah, look, a couple of good tracks coming up on the calendar. Ones that we know produce some awesome racing. At Misano, we've got Oschersleben, Detroit Belle Isle. I'm really looking forward to that race, Scotty. Detroit Belle Isle GT3 2 hours. I think that's going to be an absolute cracker with 59 cars on the grid. That's going to be magnificent. Algarve GP course, Magnicor, and the classic Watkins Glen Classic with the boot, which is a beautiful GT3 track. So we've got some really good tracks coming up. Some tight technical ones, some ones that are open, got some really good driving and just blistering race car style curves in them. Kind of exciting to see that calendar. I think I understand from the podcast, the boys sort of really mulled and thought deeply over what tracks would suit the series and suit the cars, and in true PEL style, they come up with this first one that's a new one, and not a lot of setups out there, so you've got to do your own practice. So yeah. 5 second penalties just dropped in, Scotty, for car 225. Who's that? That is Nick Bottrell, so for an incident on lap 36. So he's going to find himself with 5 seconds added to his pit stop or his race time, and we'll see how that goes. But Nick's currently running in around about P33 and with a little bit of a gap, so may not necessarily change the distance overall, but not something that you really want as you are fighting hard to try and get a good result.
Well, the thing is, for Nick, that's a lot further down than I think he would have expected to have been running, because he certainly had pace in seasons gone by and been eligible for battles deep inside the top 10, if not outright race wins at times. But the difficulty is, you find yourself back there, not on form, whatever the reason may be, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, I should be a little bit further ahead here. So all of a sudden you get in your own head a bit, and you start being a little bit more aggressive or on the car. Speaking of Nick Bottrell, right now, by the way, I just went to have a look at him. He's just had a big spin and a big accident with Martin Hallinan.
Race control.
So this is Martin Hallinan coming around, and that's Nick Bottrell that's around. He's just got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And as that happens, Sam Chapman has just disconnected as well. So another disconnection that's happened in the service here tonight. So maybe there's some storm activity around. That's what certainly Ben's let us know that a big storm around his place, which has caused the power outage. But maybe that's causing a little bit of disruption around some other areas of Australia. So unfortunate disconnections. It's something that you just don't expect if you don't get them, and when it happens, it's mightily frustrating. I got caught up in the Spa 24-hour study, and luckily I was out of the car, but you push the fast forward button on the replay, and it was freezing computers and making people disconnect. I know I wasn't the only one. I was reading on the forums that it was a fairly common problem. I think it was associated with that CrowdStrike issue that we had a week ago. But it's the only time I've ever had a disconnection, and when you're actually in a team for 24 hours, it kind of makes you worry. It gets in the back of your mind, and you go, oh, what can I do? What can't I do? What buttons can I press? Can I drive? And you and I both know that there's lots of things you have to do to drive these cars. It's not just accelerator, brake pedal, change gears, steering. You've got all of the other buttons that you can do. Find your options, find it. And when you're spotting, you're going back and forth. You're looking for other cars. You're looking for timing. There's a whole lot of controls you press. And if one of them gets a disconnect and it causes an issue, it just sort of puts it in that mind. It just makes it a really tough race.
Yeah, indeed it does. And well, unfortunately, we've just seen that I can tell you, Nick Bottrell and Martin Hallinan have both made it back to the pit lane. Martin Hallinan actually ended up cutting portions of the circuit to make it back to the lane because he just was not going to be able to drive that car. It has been reported into race control at the same time. The rear end of Nick Bottrell's Audi had gone around. This is the battle once again. That was Daniel Magri, I believe. No, sorry, my apologies, Adam Burhop. So this is the battle a little bit deeper in the field. This is back around the back end of the top 10. So Burhop sits 9th on the road at this point in time, and Dawson really trying to harass him and inside the 10 at the moment, but would like to be a little bit further inside the 10 and starting to go and chase down the next car on the road, which would be Eli Donaldson, who sits 8th at this point in time. And Burhop uses all of the available track room and some of the grass.
No, absolutely. Dawson is a new name to the series for me, but Adam Jepson, Jacob Hughes behind him are not. We know that those guys are going to fight and they're going to have a go. And I'm quite sure what Dawson will do, whether he'll settle in, but I think he's getting a little bit antsy there. He's looking for a place to get around Adam Burhop. Adam's been a little bit hot and cold. He seems to be a little bit slippery. He probably doesn't have the best setup for himself in that car right now, in that Revolution car, the new livery that we've got out there. But he's certainly fighting for his life. And Alan Dawson out there, he's Yeah, certainly putting the pressure on. So get right in his mirror there, Alan. Get a bit of left and right. Make him think twice. And we've seen that happen already in this race. And, stir it up, mix it up, put the pressure on. That's what you're in the race for.
Yeah, and that's Mac McCamley at the moment trying to let everyone go by. So he's a lap car, really trying to do the best that he possibly can to not impact this battle as it continues. Although I think he's just going to find his way into this battle.
Oh, big news. So that spin that Nick Bottrell had, and he come back out in front and caused a collision. And Nick Bottrell's been given a 15-second penalty for not holding his brakes.
And Bottrell's had another issue. Bottrell's had another issue. He's gone around again and just requested a tow. So something further has happened to the 225. I think the safety car's been deployed, so that will change everything. And oh, by the way, just to throw this in the back of your mind, we're probably about 5 to 8 minutes or so away from making it home in terms of fuel.
And we're 4 laps from my critical lap that I said at the start of the race, right? Remember I said lap 45 was the critical lap? We're 4 laps away.
Everyone's in. Everyone's coming in.
This is beautiful. Everyone will come in. Everybody will get fuel. We're going to see a mix of can you make it or can you not? And we're going to get splash and dashes for those that can't. This is going to be super exciting. And what a good time to call the safety car.
Oh, you could not have scripted it better. Look at the activity, the flurry of activity that's now going on down in the pit lane. And the critical factor is if you're off the lead lap, just stay out. Go get your lap back.
Oh, congratulations, Nick Bottrell. Well done. 15-second penalty and safety car at the perfect time. You have written a story for us, my man. I know it's been a bad race for you, but it's making the race up for everybody else. What an awesome thing we've got now for another 50 minutes when we've got 40 minutes of fuel on board.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Safety car, I believe, is out at the moment. So something's happened to the safety car. There's been damage caused to the safety car. So we're going to have... There's been an issue with the safety car at this point in time. So Dean Mackay is going to end up leading the field and just being a pseudo safety car.
Yes, just been given directions. Dean's just been given directions to run in under a virtual safety car to drop down to 80 kilometres an hour. Everybody else will be able to catch up in the train, and Dean, is going to act as the safety car. So, I don't know, can we find it? Did the safety car driver run off into the fence on his own, or did he get a little bit of help? We'll put it onto JP and see if he can go back and find it.
I don't have the safety car. So what I have is the safety car in the pit lane. And the next frame I have of it is the safety car upside down. I have nothing in between. So I think there's been an internet connection issue for the safety car. So I think there's been internet dramas for the safety car, which has caused this very unique situation that there is just no simple way of resolving.
Oh, the safety car is certainly banged up, mate. I give you that.
Well, it is. It absolutely is. It was on its lid when I saw it. When it did finally appear, it was on its lid. From that angle, it doesn't look too bad. Oh, it's leaning a little bit on the right-hand side from the rear end. I can tell you it's been punched in. And there's a pair of wing mounts there, but no wing.
Yeah, I'm on you. It looks like the safety car driver has had his own disconnection problems. He's gone out onto the track, but because he's blinked out, he's on the track on his own. No one can see him. And then the next thing we see, someone's probably come around at full speed, and iRacing's just said, "Hey, that's 2 cars having a massive big crash." Although as a blinked out car, you can't see him. Next thing we see, the safety car's on its roof upside down, man, he's towed back in the pit. So yeah, virtual safety car. It is a unique situation for PL, and away we go.
Well, I'd like to put it out there, the safety car didn't actually ask for permission to tow, so
disqualify the safety car.
It's just worth a little bit of a giggle.
It is, yeah. We can DQ the safety car, but we better not give him a 1 race ban.
Should be ashamed of themselves.
The driver's having a bit of a ball with it now. They're on the conversation chat that they got in iRacing. So whoever hit the safety car should be ashamed of themselves.
Hey guys, just remember we're live on streams.
Okay, so we now have a safety car back in the server, so they're going to get everything resorted. What this is doing, though, is getting us slowly further and further and further towards the critical lap number, or the critical time.
Yeah, it is now. So in terms of critical lap, lap 45. So we're on lap 43
Somebody's just had an issue. Somebody's just had an issue. Chris Withers. It's just had a. It's Chris Withers. There's just been. Whoa. Okay. There's been connection issues in the server.
I'm in P8 in the queue here. Can I get a wave around just to get out of the way?
Yeah, it's a safety car coming through. So
yeah, I'm going to wait around the side, yeah? Just coming up there, bro. Okay, guys, all cars are like down in the.
So what's happened is that there's been an issue with somebody else's internet connection as well, and Chris Withers is just driving along and just been hit by a ghost car. Oh, I think I see it. Actually, I think it's a blue Porsche, and I think it is Darrell O'Sullivan. It is Darrell O'Sullivan.
Everybody, please remember radio, Honda.
Alrighty, yeah. No, so there's a lot of things happening at the moment trying to get sorted out. There's a fair bit of connection issues going on, safety car connection issues. Let's talk about the race quickly, Scotty. The guys will get all that sorted. We'll get back to racing soon. But we are 1.5 minutes now, I think, and by the time we get started, we are on that 40-minute mark to get to the end of the race. I think it's going to be right that close, right? So it's going to be lap 44, but the drivers have done about 2 laps under safety car. I still think that some might have to do a splash and dash, but it's certainly a fuel save from here to the end. If you're good enough, you're going to be able to fuel save from here to the end, but you're going to be lifting and coasting into most of the corners. I think we're going to do it. And another question there on the YouTube chat about whether these guys change tyres, and yes, you change tyres because there's enough time to get a new set of boots on the car at the same time you fill up when you've got a near empty car. So the only time you wouldn't change tyres if you say come in and do a splash and dash and get about 10 laps of fuel, and your fuel fill is only about sort of less than 20 seconds, then you make that call and say, oh, we'll just put fuel in, leave the warm tyres on, because these tyres will generally last an hour or 2 hours in a GT3, but given that they change at the same time, most people will just change tyres at the same time.
They pass everyone under the safety car.
So trying to get that safety car back up to the lead end of the queue at the moment so we can get this race restarted. So it looks like... So we've got Dean Mackay as leader. So we've got an issue at the moment whereby Darrell O'Sullivan is showing as the leader actually on track at this point in time, but what's effectively happened for Darrell is that he's had internet issues, which what's gone on is effectively he's had no one in his screen, so he's been driving around at full speed because he can't see anyone trying to catch the safety car queue. So
yeah, and he would have missed the safety car coming out, and he's kept driving. So so he's been asked to pull over. So it'll take another couple of laps now to redress. So that's putting us into that time window, Scotty, when we're actually going to be in the fuel window to get in. If I'm in these cars, I am just sitting in like a high gear. I'm using as little throttle as possible and maximising the fuel saving. So anybody's out there and engineering for these drivers right now, just tell them save. You'll be able to make the end of this race if you save enough fuel under these pit stops, and you might still have to lift and coast a bit, but we're right on that window now where I think by the time this safety car period ends, going to be longer than usual, we're going to get there.
Yeah. So so everyone's massively saving fuel under this safety car period at this point in time. Before the back end of the queue, I might just come in, just splash. Why not? Just give it another big old top off of extra helping of juice and just sort of see what you can do. I think Sam Chapman's actually just done that.
Yeah, if you're back in those last sort of 3 or 4 positions, maybe last 5, yeah, go in, top up, make sure that you're full of fuel, and then you don't have to save and you can run full fuel, and you might pick up a few surprising spots along the way, as people do have to lift and coast into corners. So yeah, opportunity here for some to mix it up. I don't know how many people actually listen to us while they race, Scotty, but we found out sort of Mark Foster didn't. He only ever learnt about the calls we were calling on him after the race. He'd listen and go, "Oh, that was a mistake. Pete's just told me to pit, and I wasn't listening." So whether people are listening or not, I don't know.
Would you like
we'll find out.
Continue going around or maintain this lap?
Yeah, so we're just going to get this one figured out. It's going to take a little bit of time. So just trying to get this sorted at this point in time. It's going to take a little bit longer. I can tell you Martin Lipsky's still circulating as it currently stands as well, so he's going to be trying to tag onto the rear end of the lead pack.
Do we know what position 77
at the moment?
I have no idea. He was behind Chris Withers when the dramas happened. I think Chris was in around the mid-30s.
Which is where he 20,
so 23rd, actually, they're just saying.
23rd, you're calling, yeah.
Yeah, which, I mean, that was right behind Provenzali, I believe, as well. So,
yeah, I got him on lap 30 in lap 40 in position 35. So that's well and truly before the safety car.
That might have been right in the middle of the pit window, was it? No, it wouldn't have been in the pit window.
A lot of cars blinking out with that safety car blink out as well.
So either way,
my apologies for
when the dramas happen, when it rains, it pours is the general saying. So. Unfortunately, it's just part and parcel of doing business in an online race, really, isn't it?
And I've got to tell you, like, kudos to the race control team here. What they're doing is, they've been able to do virtual safety car on the fly. They've been able to control the field. They've held it up for an extra lap to get it sorted and get it right. They've gotten the guys into position, and we're going to get the race going again. So, that in itself, all of that, Scotty, you and I have both done race control duties, and you know when things go wrong, to have the ability just to calmly just pause, step by step, work it through, and keep the field under control and ready to go. That's really, really good work. So shout out there to the boys doing the race control team. Even though the safety had the blink and caused a whole lot of issues there that were unexpected, they've actually got this field under control, and we'll get racing very shortly.
Yeah. It's just the thing that sits in the back of my mind is when you have a situation like this, you cannot, there is no way that you can fix this perfectly. There's just nothing you can do. For Darryl O'Sullivan, based upon what he was seeing on his screen, everyone will be looking at him and sort of pointing the finger and whatnot, but on his screen, he saw no cars, right? And that's what you can remember. When you go back and you unpack everything that's happened from tonight, there'll be a few guys that'll sit down and do that, and I'll go, oh, I'm really annoyed with that. My race has been ruined over nothing. Darryl's done nothing wrong. By his screen, there was no cars there. So he was just attempting to... so, it is what it is. So... It's just, it's one of those circumstances that no one can fix it to...
No, that's right. And if you see a safety car get called, you drive as hard as you can until you come up to a train.
Yep, 100%.
Right? Looks like we're getting away, Scotty. Looks like we're getting underway.
Yeah, indeed we are. And back to the front end of the field, Dean Mackay was leading the race. He was slowly being caught by Owen Coleman. Now Owen Coleman will get a chance to have a crack at him from the front end of the field and right on his tail. And Daniel Magri's going to have an opportunity to go with these guys. If they start to battle, Magri's already shown himself to be an opportunist. Could be another opportunity. And I get the feeling that we've crested far enough into this race that it will be make it home from here territory. But I get the feeling as well, some fuel will need to be saved. It won't be much, but it will be some.
Yeah, I agree with you. The way we're going, they did 3 laps after the pit stop under the safety car, which is kind of, it's almost up to about a lap's worth of fuel if you drive it right or less. And then, we got up to lap 46 with a lap 45 critical lap. So I reckon we're all on critical numbers, but, maybe a little bit of fuel saving here and there, depending on what car you're driving. Some of these cars burn more fuel than others, depending on, the size and configuration of the motor, where they're at, and who left foot brakes and who right foot brakes. Even that's a consideration right now. So there is going to be, I think, a little bit of fuel saving, but I think all of these cars are going to make it to the end if they're driven right.
So right now it's going to be make sure that you get yourself back into this race, give yourself an opportunity. If you have changed tyres, bring them up to temperature and pressure. Oh, and remember how I said that the server was going to start cooling off because we're now past that... critical marker in terms of the race where the sun's come off the surface and the UV starting to come out of the track. Well, it has dipped 2 degrees in terms of track temperature since that last check-in. So that was about half an hour ago. Expect it to probably start dying off. You're probably seeing a few more degrees keep peeling out of it with the remainder of the race left to go. We have 36 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. Dean Mackay-Wynne is leading at the moment. Can he pull out a race win will be the big question. And for some of those drivers deeper in the field, there's a few of them that have made inroads as well. And one driver that I'm all of a sudden not seeing leading the Challenger class, which was Eli Donaldson. No, he is still leading the Challenger class. In fact, he's actually deep inside the top 10. Sits 7th on the road, by the way.
Yeah, I was just looking at Challenger class, and the other name, Scotty, that we've talked about tonight, and we're a little bit surprised about when he pitted, is Chris Ruddle. Chris Ruddle has come from the back of the field. He's now in P20 and now currently 3rd in the Challenger class, running behind Mark Foster in the Chevy. So Eli's still got a lovely break in the Challenger class, but Fozzie and Chris Ruddle fighting it over for 2nd place with none other than Ricky the Rocket Provenzali sitting behind them. If he can get out of the way, then we have a 3-way battle for 2nd place in the Challenge class. So move over, admin, let the challengers play.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I've just had something come up on my end for just 2 seconds, Pete. So I'm just going to have to ask you just to carry on.
No worries. I'll take it over from here. What I am watching, so I'm going to keep an eye out for everybody on that Challenger class. Just made that little bit of a call there. But the other name that's actually surprising me tonight is Adrian Grech, up 16 positions, as well as Daryl O'Sullivan. Both drivers are up 16 positions. They are the biggest gainers for the field tonight. But as we know from previous seasons, there's Daryl O'Sullivan just having a spin. Sorry about that little bit of commentator's curse there, Daryl. And up 16 positions, I think he's just dropped 16, and now he's down 2. So he's just dropped 18 positions. And I think that's on me just for calling out where you were in terms of a good run. So sorry about that, Daryl. But yeah, Adrian Grech is up there, 16 positions. He is the current. No, he's not. We have Leith McClimmer in the Soul Mercedes, up 18 positions, running in 31st. I'm not sure whether, I think Elite's in the Challenger class as well. But yeah, a few names. Adrian Grech's up there. And hopefully Adrian's got enough fuel to get to the end. We know that's been a little bit of trouble. So let's get back out the front now. We've got Dean Mackay still running the race out front. Under pressure from Owen Coleman. I think we've gone past the stage where Owen's saving fuel. Owen's now just going to put a whole lot of pressure on Dean for the rest of the race. Then Magri's just holding Benn Jeffery off. Tony Wallace is just a little bit dropped off just from those two. And he's now going to find himself under pressure from Stewie Shaw. So they're just dropping their 10-second penalty for car 911. That's Curtis. And causing an incident on lap 47. That's not associated with the safety car. That's after the race got going again. So, what are you back?
Oh, we got a car off again. It's the second time in a lap. Vinny Newen has just been falling through the order. He's had one spin already on this lap. He had a big old slide on the run down to turn, turn 5. The long kink, the rear end of that Porsche was just sliding all over the place. He's had another spin on that lap, or another drummer. He's ended off in the grass yet again, and Matt Webber's now in behind him. So he's having a lot of dramas right now. Is that Vinny Newen Porsche?
Vinny looks like he's JP's in our air, so that's because he's picked the Porsche. JP, that's not very fair. Looks like Vinny might be having some hardware trouble. Doesn't look like he's able to brake properly and run that car at full speed. But good fair sportsman play. He's doing the right thing. He's not getting in the way of anybody else and letting the race run. And that's why I really like to see that. I really like to see somebody who might be having a little bit of difficulties like that. They don't run anybody else's race. They just cop it on the chin. They let everybody else crack on with their racing, and they deal with whatever they got to deal with. So shout out to Vinny for top level sportsmanship there, and welcome to PL. It's not an easy series to run in, not an easy series to finish in the top 10 in, and get out there. And if you're a top sportsman, I'm going to shout out and call that out every day of the week.
Yep. And good job by him for getting out of the way as well. So it's now on to the back half of the race and the final stint, the final stanza. Who is going to manage their race? Who is going to manage to keep moving themselves forward is going to be the big old key. And we keep our eyes on this battle because it's for the final step on the elite podium as it currently stands. And Eli Donaldson as well sits at the back end of this group and could still be relevant.
Do you think Eli's showing the speed he should be an elite class driver, Scotty, or do you think it might be a one-off for him?
He's just managed the race really, really well. The difficulty is, I would never say, and I'd say this to anyone that's just running leagues like this, it's really tricky, right? Don't ever take your promotion relegations off one race. And I'll give you a very good example. I was running in a series back when they used the Porsche Cup in the 991 spec, and I spent a lot of practicing for a Nürburgring in that car probably 6 months prior to this league race, and then it popped back around again, and all of a sudden I was a second quicker than I was the previous week. I was a second sort of ahead of where I'd relatively be. It's just because I'd done a lot of practice at that track. And Leith McClimate loses the rear end of that Mercedes. It goes around in a puff of smoke, and could that be the puff of smoke of the death of the Mercedes' career in the Premier Endurance Racing League?
No, I doubt it. He's under obligation to keep it going. He's just got to get it back on. He's had to sit there and wait. And it was a bit of a shame there because I was just seeing he was right up the back of the other Revolution e-racing team cars, and I'm like, dudes, 1, 2, 3, or that 3 places, 1 in a row. That was going to look really good for the team there. And then Leith's upset, and mate, you might have to go and answer to the boss after this race because you just cost him a whole lot of really good screen time.
Benn Jeffery's actually starting to get real close to the guys up ahead. Unfortunately for Vinny, it looks like a VR-related issue. And I will say, actually, that's worth noting. I know of about 5 guys at the moment in the last couple of days have had VR issues. So there could, in theory, be some dramas heading around as a result of that as well. I think it's going to be... We've had a difficult time, I'd say, for hardware over the last year. And the difficulty in that is rain and graphical adjustments have come through, and I know JP and I had a very extensive discussion about what it was going to do for the sim and everything prior to the introduction of rain, but it's been difficult because computers are being challenged in ways they haven't been challenged before. The fact that there was a graphical error in the 2000 series NVIDIA cards that was only affecting those cars. There is specifics that sometimes affects these sorts of things that, sometimes are going to be broke before you can fix it. There's no point changing a tire, changing a flat before it's gone flat. I mean, if you could see the nail and prevent the nail going in, well, then you wouldn't be changing a flat, would you?
Well, interesting. I think I was lucky because about 3 weeks before iRacing introduced rain, I introduced a brand new PC. And I went from a 20 series card to a 40 series card. So I was kind of pretty chuffed that happened. But yeah, no, a little bit of news that Vinny's had some problems with VR, and it's been a battery related issue with his VR. So something that some drivers here, Jesse McMenamin's just on the chat. Where are you, Jesse? I'm looking forward to calling you out in the race. But Jesse's on the chat for saying he's had that problem before. Looking out for and also calling out if anybody knows of a computer sponsor that wants to throw him an upgrade. So yeah, good call. We'll ask for you, Jesse, but I can't promise we'll any results. Right.
Yeah, it's just the state of the world we live in. There's been so much that's happened in the last year. Like it's always when something changes, because if the sim didn't change, we wouldn't be having everything stabilized out. But CloudStrike, of course, recently just changes everything. Suddenly somebody goes, well, that's okay, and we're not happy with that. We'll change who we're working with for our internal security, which changes the process, which changes something that somebody hasn't thought about, and then all of a sudden something else is breaking. So anyway, it is the modern day world, and Dan Magri's fallen back to the tune of about 5.5 seconds, 6.5 seconds back from our race leaders at this point in time, so hasn't been able to match them. And I think Benn Jeffery feels like he's got a little bit of pace now, and it's changed hands. It was Tommy Wallace early on it was struggling at the front end of this pack, and I think as the track's cooled off a little bit, that Porsche's just recovered, or whether or not the Porsche is good early on in the stint and then sort of fades away from Tommy might be the key.
Well, the other thing we've got to bear in mind, remember, we're right on the limits of fuel. So, and if you're the lead car in the pack, you're not going to get to save the fuel that the people behind you are. So, right now, as we run into this 26, 27 minutes to go, if you're sitting behind Magri, so you're Benn Jeffery, if you know you've got a little bit of something in the bank there in terms of fuel, you can run there behind Ben behind Dean Magri. You can save a little bit of fuel, but you've got to just stay close enough and put Dean under pressure so he's got to burn as much as you can get him to burn. And that essentially might give you some places at the end of the race. So it's all about thinking through the whole race rather than where they are right now. It's because you've got that opportunity given that right on those windows, got here, that fuel threshold. And no, that we've got a lap car that's going to come into play very shortly. So we'll see what happens here. The car of Nathan Coburn is just out there. He's just pulled over and it's going to lift on the straight. He's done everything right there for a lap car, and let a big chunk of cars go through in this race carry on.
Yeah, Benn Jeffery now just showing the nose. I'm not hearing him saving, by the way, Pete. I jumped on board. I just wanted to just check with how they were running, like what was the call? No saving. I can tell you no saving going on from that car. So that either says we are definitely in splash and dash territory, or we are definitely in good to the end, because you would be hearing, and I've listened to a few cars now, none of them are saving. So
yeah, that would indicate to me that they've all got the green light to get to the end after the 3 or 4 laps under the safety car, and I think we're just going to watch them now race to the end. I think if they're not saving, not doing any lifting, that would indicate to me that well and truly they're in that window, and their calculators tell them they're going to make that to the end. Now, whether that's the case or not, you and I've seen calculators be wrong, particularly in the first 5 laps after a big safety car period. So you've got to really let them normalise. You've got to let these race calculators normalise, because a lot of them work over a 5-lap average and then forecast. Oh, there's a little bit of incident.
Oh, there it goes. Magri goes round. I looked away for 2 moments and Dan Magri's gone around, and I can tell you Alan Dawson's now offline and losing spots. So the replay is going to be telling the story. And did Benn Jeffery get close enough for a little bit of a whack? There's a little bit of curb there. He turns in and there's no overlap. And I think Benn Jeffery might be in a little bit of trouble with the stewards.
Yeah, I reckon Benn Jeffery's going to be in a little bit of trouble. He got a nice grip through the 2 corners. He pulled in nice and tight, but Dean touched that curve and threw the car out, but there's nowhere near enough overlap there. That is a case that Benn Jeffery is going to have to answer. And for 2 guys that were fighting there for the last place on the podium, I think that's going to put them right back down. We're now going to see, we're going to see Tommy Wallace back up there, mate, fighting for P3. He's going to have to hold off a very strong Stuart Shaw in the Revolutionary Race Team Porsche. So, I reckon there's a penalty coming for Benn Jeffery. Ben's going to have to pull out all of the stops, because if it's a 5-second penalty, he needs to get away, because there's a lot of cars within 10 seconds of him. There's a lot of positions there.
So he's still going to keep going as hard as he possibly can. That's the big key, isn't it? It's okay. It's happened now. Just got to go for it.
Can't do it. All I can do, all you can do in this state is you can just drive as fast as you can, and whatever penalty is, whatever penalty, but you got to get as far ahead of the cars behind you and create the big gap and compensate for whatever the penalty is. Because you don't have to overtake them. You just got to stay still and create a big gap. I'm going to be pretty confident that's a penalty coming Ben's way.
Yeah, the difference is what is the severity of the penalty? With the big key is at 5 or 10 seconds. I don't know if it is 15, but it is at least, I would say probably 10. I'm thinking 10 seconds is probably the appropriate penalty given what we've seen thus far tonight, but we're all guessing. We're all just trying to make guesses.
You're there for it, mate, and I'll bring it to you as soon as we got it. It's a drive-through penalty for Benn Jeffery, car number 150. So race control have seen that as a dead-set driving infringement and driving error. So Benn Jeffery, drive-through penalty, has to take that within 3 laps. So he is certainly going to get back down into the back of the field, and he's going to have a head of steam, mate, and somebody that fast in the back of this field might push some other things as we go along. So Oh, there's some things to answer there, but yeah, no, I think that's a fair
definitely an infringement. Yeah. Look, I mean, it's severity you'll always complain about to the end of the day, but yeah, drive-through penalty. I sit there and I go, I can see it, but I think it's still harsh. Is my take on it. I can see it's valid. I'm not saying it's invalid. I'm just saying, I think that's probably a little bit more of a whack of the stick. Is it because it's for third place? Well, we won't know. But at the end of the day, it has been issued. He'll crack on for one more lap, which means that effective P3 on the race is definitely Tommy Wallace now. And the response from Stewie Shaw, what's it going to be?
Yeah, well, Ben hasn't come in yet for this lap, but he doesn't have to take it straight away. He's got a couple of laps. He doesn't have the ability to challenge it. He's just got to have a couple of laps to get in there and take that drive-through penalty. Yeah, my mindset, if I ever get, and I do get drive-through penalties every now and then, is just cop it, just straight in, take it, right?
Wait it off.
Yeah, and then you've got more time. The sooner you take it, the more time you've got to recover from it in the race. But in Ben's mind, it might be a case of I'll try and eke this out a couple of laps and just spread the field a little bit. I don't think it's going to spread enough to compensate for a whole drive-through, but that's another way of thinking about it. But to be honest, if an incident happens and the safety car comes out, he can't take it. It has to be rescinded and reissued later. So that can be an even worse penalty. So that's another reason why you take it early. But anyway, drive-through penalty coming out for Ben. That puts Tommy Wallace up on to P3 outright, and Stewie Shaw fighting for it in P4.
Well, I was actually going to say if I'm in his shoes, I'm actually running as long as I possibly can. The reason for that is actually field spread. Is the reason I want to take it as late as I possibly can after a safety car restart. So either way, Benn Jeffery's going to have to pull off to the lane. If he doesn't do it this lap, next lap will be his final opportunity to do that one before a disqualification. So time running short for Benn Jeffery to get the penalty out of the way now.
Yep,
Coleman's
there he goes,
not
up into the pits. We'll see where he comes out.
Coleman's not been able to match at the head of the race, by the way. Dean Mackay has actually pulled away from Owen Coleman, so that says to me that there is actually some fuel being saved.
Yeah, I had in my mind that Coleman was just sitting cruising behind Dean Mackay and was waiting for a chance to pounce. But if Dean's pulling away, I reckon Dean's good on fuel, because you wouldn't be pulling away like that if you're good to go for fuel.
And if he was in a fuel hole, Owen Coleman wouldn't be passing him either. He'd be saying, "No, mate, you've got to save it. I'm going to put you in as big a hole as I possibly can, and then I'm going to overtake you."
Absolutely.
Wallace continues to get the elbows out. And he's going to be covering again, so that's been his driving style and the decisions that he's made tonight. And this pack has really... The first main pack sort of in the field all night has just been basically Tommy Wallace at the head end of it. Good luck trying to overtake me.
Yeah, well, it's I actually thought driving this track in practice today, and to be honest, I haven't raced this, so it was just sort of based on driving. I actually thought there was a couple of really good spots for overtaking, but it's proved more difficult than that. So, and I reckon it's because it's just lots of little short shoots, and it's not enough to get a really good lot of overlap. It's a kind of track where you're waiting for a car in front of you to make a mistake. So essentially, let's say I'm Stewie Shaw. Essentially, I've got to get right up close to Tommy, and I've got to sort of chink, left and right in the mirrors, and just make him second guess and miss a braking point and get that mistake. And that's how you get the position. A lot of patience needed when the driving's like that, because it's not like the draft fest that we might see at a track like Spa or Monza or somewhere like that, where you just come off a corner, you draft, and you get plenty of time to go around. You've got to force the drivers into a mistake.
It becomes more of a tactical game then, isn't it? Rather than just an out and out, I'm just going to beat you with just raw pace. And it becomes about checking the driver up. Okay, well, whenever I see racing at Winton, I always talk about it this way. It's about, you don't make the overtake where you actually make the overtake. Oftentimes at Winton Motor Raceway, it's about setting it up probably about 4 or 5 corners before. You get him to cover you once, then he has to cover you again, then he has to cover you again and again and again. And eventually you just get to this point where you just build this supreme amount of momentum to get the job done. So that's what's going to happen here. And I think for Tommy Wallace, I don't think there's some corners he probably does need to cover out, and some he absolutely just let it happen, right? Let the guy get to your inside. He's never going to get the overtake done. Here is one of those places where I'd just be like, okay, have the inside. I can defend from the outside around this section of the track because it then becomes the inside down here, and that's the corner I'm actually worried about.
Yeah, and we got a bit of confirmation there. Nick Cottrell, who started the race, had the DNF because of an unfortunate incident, has confirmed extremely difficult to overtake on this track, and that's from a guy who was in the race. So there we go. I think you're right. I think we're going to have to call this. I think Tommy, if he's smart, he only needs to defend in certain corners. But yeah, if I'm Stuart Shaw, I'm not caring about certain corners. I'm just trying to make him miss a brake marker. I'm trying to make him look in the mirrors at the same time he's supposed to be braking. I'm trying to make him which way is he going? Where's he going to be? Is he going to go on the left or is he going to go on the right? And just enough to just miss a marker by 0.1, 0.2 of a second, overshoot a corner, and he's driving a Porsche. So the Porsche will do Porsche things, and then Stewie Shaw gets that position. Doesn't mean anybody else gets a position, but that's what you've got to do. You've just got to put the pressure on. And if Stewie doesn't get it, he's done everything he can right to be able to get it, which is put the pressure on. But the other thing in Stewie's mind, he's got Eli Donaldson, who ain't going to give any quarter. He's going to be doing exactly the same thing to Stewie Shaw. So he's got it from the front and from the rear. Put the pressure on, but take the pressure in the back. So really good close racing. And for those that were watching, Benn Jeffery, after that drive-through penalty, has come out in P18. So after the incident, Dan Magri came out in P13. So Ben's sort of dropped about another 5 places back. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, so drive-through sorted, and now he'll have to get elbows out, Benn Jeffery, and see if he can't earn a few more spots further back. But yeah, maybe I rescind my comments about the early penalty. Maybe it was right. I can tell you at this point in time, Benn Jeffery's just given a good old wrap to James Mason, who is on his outside at this point in time. Very close on the run down here to turn 9. Gets it to the inside, gets the job done. So 18th becomes 17th now for Benn Jeffery.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. That was a fair and reasonable overtake. And it looked there like Mason just turned in. He made the move a little bit. Ben was just nice and stationary. Got the overlap, got him under brakes and put out. He's got to try and get away now and flies forward. So yeah, and fight back and try and get those positions. But yeah, back at the front, Stewie Shaw's just dropped a little bit off Tommy Wallace. Tommy's got a little bit of a gap there, so just a little bit of a mistake there from Stewie Shaw. He dipped the rear of the Porsche into the sand at the exit, with the final turn there. He's just lost a little bit of position. So this gap is opening up. Tommy Wallace might actually have something here, mate. We've got like 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, and the tricky part was, when was he going to start to open up that margin? When was he going to be released as well? Because for Benn Jeffery being in that mix, that resolves itself. And the other big key that I'm learning as well that I didn't really... I've driven this track a while back when it initially launched, but I haven't driven it since. And one of the things I didn't really take note of was actually the bumps that actually exist on this track. And it's not curbs. That's not what I'm talking about. They're actual bumps that exist basically from turn 5 through down onto the back straight.
Yeah, and if you get them under braking, it upsets the cars, particularly the ones with the rear engine where they seem to have that pendulum effect. So, which is the Porsche, the Corvette, the McLaren, the Lambo. Geez, I wish there was a Lamborghini in this race, eh?
Yeah. Jacob Hughes. It's become the unloved stepchild of the Audi, hasn't it?
Well, is the Lambo the new Ford GT?
Yeah, maybe. I was actually going to say the McLaren's the new Ford GT, that somebody only really runs it as a meme. But anyway, the other thing to sort of consider is, where does the Audi go in terms of development? Well, what fills its shoes? Because the last of the Audis, the R8 engines, has run off the production line. We will see no more brand new Audi R8s. And there's no real announcement at this point in time about what that future looks like. And Audi have got such a successful program in terms of their racing division. So that is an icon of the supercar era. Go on, there's a break. So no, break car around.
Adam Burhop's just had a bit of a spin in turn 1 there. He's just lost the back of it as he's come around the first turn complex. Did he touch the curb? No, he didn't come off the curb. Or he did. Yeah, he's just touched the inside curve there, which can upset the car, and away he goes. Once he dropped 3-4 positions. 4 positions, and we'll get going.
I reckon Eli Donaldson.
Tough race.
Eli Donaldson's about to have a crack here. The bottom end of this shot. Yeah, he did. He just weave around. And now he's actually managed to get some overlap on the inside, but he won't get drive out the other side. Stuart Shaw's going to go the long way round and have to defend. He will be on the inside at one of the tightest corners on the racetrack. In fact, it is the tightest corner on the racetrack, and around the outside, they'll go toe-to-toe. Is there contact? I don't think there's been any dings thus far, but they're still side-by-side. Now there is contact. Donaldson gets to the inside. Tommy Wallace says, I needed that break, boys. And finally, Eli Donaldson sits in Challenger class. That is, well, I said, wait 2 rounds before you look at that one. I reckon it's getting looked at because he is 1 step away from the podium. And guess what? He's got 12 minutes to have a crack.
Absolutely, and there's a little bit of intel popped up on the chat. Eli Donaldson's in the pro class in the Gentlemen's Sim Racing Club, mate. So he might be he might be just misgraded at the moment, but who cares, right? He's putting on a crack of a race. He's up there in P4. He's 1.5 seconds behind Tommy Wallace, and we know Tommy hasn't necessarily been uber fast this whole time. If Eli's got the pace, he's got enough time to catch him.
Yeah. So Donaldson will get presented with an opportunity now. He lost 0.6 of a second with that battle, which actually wasn't all that much. He could have lost a heck of a lot more time, and I tell you, he's already taken chunks of time back out of Tommy Wallace. Wallace, I think, is going to be a lot more worried. Stewie Shaw just couldn't. He could get to the back bumper, but he couldn't really show anything. And I think something's just happened to Richard Mair on this current lap as well. I'm showing a slow car down in 40th position as well, which would be Martin Lipsky's had another drama.
Yeah, Richard's had a bit of a spin. Not sure if there's contact involved or he's just come off the curb. Oh, yeah, a little bit of a touch there. Oh, a little bit of push. Yeah, backwards. He's held it well and kept it off the track. So good on you, Richard. Well done. You hit the brakes, mate. Giving everybody else race to pace. Oh, he stopped from going on. He nearly drove on the track while I was giving him kudos. But no, good on him. Did everything right there. Lost a few positions. Called it in. I'll have a look at it, mate. Oh, Jacob Hughes. See, the Porsche. The Porsche is too long of a front. If he was driving in a Lamborghini, that wouldn't happen.
That's one way to put it. Righto, Donaldson will finally get an opportunity to show what the representative lap time looks like for this battle right here. And there's more dramas. Something's happened to Rain Campbell. Rain Campbell's just put 2 separate calls into race control on the current lap. Oh, yeah, sorry, the last lap now.
Adam Burhoff and Rain Campbell have come together, I think, and Adam's had a bit of a spin and lost another chunk of time and another chunk of position as well. So after what was looking like a good race for Adam Burhoff, it's been incident-packed, and it's sort of dropped him down the order by some margin now. So, oh yeah, oh, the hard one to call, that, Scotty. I think I'll leave that to race control. I think the hard one to call. I think. That might be a little bit of a racing incident there right now. Cars are side by side. He's
tracked out. Yeah,
he's kind of tracked out a bit. I'm not sure that that's on the car, just purely on the outside, but it has cost Adam some time, and that just might be a bit of a racing incident there.
Well, see, that corner is like 45 degrees. Sorry, it's the angle it makes when looking backwards is 45 degrees. So that would make it 135-ish degrees, I think, looking at that. So it's significantly more than 90 degrees. And that comes with the corner sort of nearly doubling back on itself.
Yeah.
Really. And the line changes. So I think it's just a little bit of a misread in that one. So, but anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, it's called into race control. The boys will have a look at it, I'm sure. And, I'll make a determination whether there's not the case to answer or not. But other than that, let's get back on Eli Donaldson. What have we got? We've got 8 minutes to go, so that's going to be about 5 or 6 laps, Scotty. 6 laps up to about lap 70, and he's pulled up 3/10 last lap. So that's a 4-lap gap. So Wallace might be able to hold on to him. We'll see. We'll see, but he might catch up to him with like 1 or 2 laps to go. Could be something there in the end.
Yeah, he's not going to have much time though when he arrives on scene. Stuart Shaw, since he's been overtaken, has not been able to match him either. So that margin between those two is coming down. The 2 right sim racing Porsches are having a go at each other as well.
Yeah. It's like Stephen Lawson there having a go at Jacob Hughes in his faux Lamborghini. It looks like a Porsche. Yeah, putting all sorts of pressure on, taking the position pretty easy. That's Lambo team. It looks like so car 322. It's just been given a 5-second penalty. That's Adam Burhop for gaining an advantage off track. Oh, that's interesting. So that must have been something that we didn't catch the scene. Because certainly every time we've thrown to Adam Burhop, he's been spinning and losing time. So something's happened there that we've sort of missed for him to get that 5-second penalty.
I can tell you these two riots in racing Porsches of Stefan Lawrence and Jacob Hughes still going at each other as well. A bit of a ding-dong stoush, and now Rain Campbell tries to get involved and will cop the door of Jacob Hughes. So I will want to get it settled out as quickly as possible. Rain Campbell dives down the inside exceptionally late, forced onto the curb by Jacob Hughes. And he's had contact with Adam Burhop. Well, chalk up Jacob Hughes into the mix as well. This is for the final spots inside the top 10. And Daniel Magri sits in behind and goes, I was sitting in third spot. I was sitting on a podium. I might want a top 10 just to round things back out. Donaldson, I'm interested to see what time he did make. Another 10th of a second for Donaldson. Stuart Shaw's actually starting to drop really back off his rear bumper. So whatever the issue was for Tommy Wallace, being able to stop covering sort of stem the bleeding, if you will. He's been able to recover quite well.
We're in those laps, Scotty, where if you have to save fuel, you have to save fuel. But yeah, another 10-second penalty there for car 96. Jacob Hughes. Jacob, yeah, that was that one we called out. If you're in the Lamborghini, you wouldn't have that 10-second penalty, mate. You shouldn't have touched the back of him. That little short front of the Lambo would have saved you. But anyway, 10 seconds there for Jacob Packard Hughes. He's going to pay the penalty there. But yeah, maybe that's why he's let Austin through. Probably not going to be too worried about 2 cars behind him.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm just looking a little bit deeper in the field as well. I think Rue Koister's had to come back down to the pit lane because he didn't get enough fuel in that car. So, Benn Jeffery managing to try and gain up another spot, has moved his way past Burhop into 15. Now chasing down Matthew Carrick.
And look at the name in front of Matty Carrick, mate. Matty Scholes.
Final 5 minutes of the race now. Time starting to run out in a hurry. A big check there for Provenzali. So, tell you what, Mike Foster's moved inside the top 20 now as well.
Yeah, no, well and truly inside. He's still second in the Challenger class. Leo Donaldson, well and truly front. Here's a name we haven't called all night, Scotty. Jimmy Middleton. Where is the nut?
He's at the back, trying to stay away from getting cracked.
Is he? Oh, Walnut. P36. Well and truly down in the Challenger class. Not really fine. Hasn't done much tonight. Hasn't really done anything stupid either, which is probably good for Jimmy. Hopefully he's got enough fuel to get to the end and stay out of the limelight.
Can we just point out that he had an opportunity to win a race in the Challenger class and he threw it away. He threw it out the window. Well, and he's also not had a clean night at the office, Pete. And we did catch it, and he didn't get away with it.
And we flipped to him in the Mustang, and there we go. Someone tags him and turns him around. Commentators cursed. He's alive and well, Scotty.
I think that's just pointing it out. The curse happened before we said anything, so he cannot blame us for that one. So, anyway, like an update, by the way, on that battle for third spot, Donaldson has caught Tommy Wallace now. He is right amongst him, and there's this battle going on as well for Sam Chapman trying to cut his way back through the field and now be on the outside and get squeezed. And is that Burhop trying to come his way back through? I believe it might be. As it's Sam Chapman. No, it's Trent Allen. Sam Chapman and Isaac Curtis with the 2 Porsches going toe-to-toe, and it's Trent Allen was in the Mustang, and he's got Benjamin Brook trying to send it down to his inside. So there is quite a number of aggressive fights going on up and down the field at this point in time. And I do want to get back towards the top end of the field because there is still that battle between Donaldson and Wallace. And they are getting closer and closer and closer.
No, also, and Owen Coleman's made his way back up to within a second of D. Mackay right at the front of the field. So he probably doesn't have it to make it. But yeah, Donaldson and Wallace is probably the race for the last place on the podium. Yeah, Eli Donaldson
And Adam Burhop gets no further action for his incident. It was a lot earlier on. By the way, there's now blocking coming out again, once again, from Tommy Wallace. Right, he wants to get defensive. He goes to the inside of the road. And this is where Eli Donaldson will go, all right, you're blocking. I've got an opportunity then. It means you're worried.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, man. Daryl, sorry.
There we go. Looks like car 47, Dean Hunt, has just picked up a 10-second penalty. So that's the race control is starting to work. There has been quite a few incidents in this last part of the race, Scotty. He thinks people have just got a little bit desperate, or maybe there's some differences in car speed as different people have had the fuel save subtly.
I'm just wondering, we're actually going to go to 69 laps here, Pete, which, funny, the number is always hilarious, but I wonder whether or not everyone was calculating based upon 68 laps, and we are going to get a 69th lap.
Yeah,
Because
I thought
that was not the
70 to
one lap.
72 without the safety car. So, when did we pitted on lap 43? So we're
End of
25
41.
laps
End
in.
of 41.
End of 41. So, oh yeah, okay. So we're at 27 laps. And 27 laps was the full fuel, full range at full pace. So, safety car fuel, yeah. Wait, they've only got
I reckon Mackay's short. I reckon Mackay is short because Owen Coleman is now taking a lot of time at it. Now, the other thing is there is traffic, but it's just conspired and then it kept conspiring and it's still conspiring. We're getting a white flag here in a few corners' time. And I don't know if Dean Mackay's going to be able to make the race. Surely he'd be aware of it. He wouldn't be getting this far into the race and then all of a sudden going, oh, I'm in danger here. I'm going to have to save quite aggressively. But he is lifting off early. Guarantee he's lifting off early right now. And Coleman is coming.
Yeah, let's just listen to it.
Well, no lift there. Maybe Coleman's just got low fuel speed. Struggled with a higher fuel load. There are a couple of cars from the rear end of the field that have gone into the pit lane. So both of them are continued on. White flags in the air. There will be one more lap left to run. Who has got the juice to go to the distance? And who ran out of oranges when they were trying to squash and squeeze the juice out of them into that fuel tank? And Jimmy Middleton, an update on, by the way, did run out of oranges in that car. So he had to go back to the store for a few more to squeeze for some juice.
Yeah, it looks like Chris Ruddles had to go in too on lap 66. So he was up quite a few positions, but he's dropped back again.
Battle for third on the road is still incredibly tight as well. So final lap of the race at this point in time, and I've got another car at the tail end of the field that's just going into the pit lane as well. Down around 21st or so, which is Sam Chapman's now made his way into the lane. So everyone's going to be extremely tight. And they'll know by now whether or not they're short. They'll know what they need to do.
Oh, is Adrian Grech going to make it?
Oh, don't you do that to him. Don't you do that to him. Wallace still ahead. I would say that if Donaldson's not close enough by now, I don't think he's going to get it, but he's going to finish fourth, and he's had to overtake a ton of cars on the way here. Something's just happened to Richard Mair as well. And Ricky Provenzali and Richard Mair have made contact on the final lap of the race. And the final corner now for the race leader. Who's got the juice? Who can pull it out of the final corner? Dean Mackay's been quick here tonight. He got lucky. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck, but sometimes it's all skill as well. And he certainly had to drive quick. He held off Owen Coleman. They both had enough juice to get to the line. Tommy Wallace at the final corner now. And Donaldson is throwing everything at him, but I think he's going to run out of time. The start-finish line is a long, long way down this straight, but you need a lot of draft, and there's just not enough to get there. So Wallace will finish on the podium. And it turns out the defensive maneuvers from Tommy Wallace worked. Adrian Grech has done it again. You can't write the script. You cannot write this.
Adrian!
And
Adrian!
Are you how?
Oh, Ampol Adrian, I'm going to call him from now on. Go to an Ampol fuel station and chock it up. Ampol Adrian, you're getting a new nickname.
Good race, everyone.
Oh, that is unbelievable.
I can't believe that happened again. 3 times. So, like, I can't believe. I think in the entire duration of this series, we've had about 6 or 7 cars run out of fuel, and Adrian Gretsch is 3 of them.
Yes. Yes. Unbelievable.
He said he was going to hire a new fuel agent as cars deeper in the field are coming to the line. Dean Hunt's going to get back through in 31st. But he said he was getting somebody else to do the fuel for him. He's going to switch applications. Well, it hasn't worked.
Oh, PM me for chief engineer pay rates, Adrian, and we'll see if we can work out.
Glass of wine is all he needs.
Sorry, mate, ran out of fuel.
Oh, that is unbelievable. I can't believe that happened. Poor Adrian. He was 17 positions up. He was the leader of those cars that have made positions too. So he was going to be up there for like driver of the race. But
didn't I say earlier in the night, oh, hang on, don't say that about him, just in case he runs out of fuel? I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I said.
Oh, that is funny. Anyway, wow, wow. Well, I got it, mate. Kudos to D. Mackay. He's beaten Owen Coleman. We don't see that every day of the week, do we? Somebody has been able to hold off Owen, even in with fuel strategy with tight fuels. Somebody has been fast enough, and he's beaten Owen. Will Owen go and kick himself now for choosing the Chevy over the Porsche, or is he just going to dig deep and go, righto, we really got a serious championship fight on our hands, and enjoy the battle and the fun. As such is the sportsman that Owen is.
Yeah, congratulations.
Ben Woods needs to find a better power supply. Final results from tonight's racing action. After 2 hours, Dean Mackay will stand atop the pile. Owen Coleman went in pursuit and did chase him down the latter stages of the race, wasn't able to mount enough of a comeback. Tommy Wallace was probably the scene of the most action inside the top 10 all night long. And he did have some fun with it. Finally managed to stand on the podium as well. Eli Donaldson wins the Challenger class. I don't know how much longer for he'll remain in there from Stewie Shaw. Alan Dawson will be the first of the Right Sim Racing cars home in 6th position. Adam Jepson in behind him. Stephen Lawrence in 8th. Rain Campbell and Daniel Magri home in 10th. That rounds out your top 10. Jacob Hughes finishes just outside the top 10 ahead of Daniel Finney. Matthew Sculls home in 13th. Benn Jeffery, Matt Carrick. So that was Benn Jeffery after the recovery drive. Did get back to 14th after the drive-through penalty as well. Matthew Carrick from James Mason, Adam Burhop. Mark Foster, second in Challenger class, could be promoted to the race win, pending what they're going to do with Eli Donaldson. 19th and 20th is going to be Trent Allen from Benjamin Brook. Brook will be home in 3rd in Challenger class as it currently stands. Jamie Saxon will be 4th in that Challenger class. Alfonso Latella, Richard Mair, Rick Provenzali, Eric Fenson, Tom Williams, Chris Ruddle had a reasonable night at the office, 5th, I think, in Challenger class standings from Sam Chapman, Isaac Curtis. Daryl O'Sullivan had internet dramas, and there'll be a lot to unpack from that one. Dean Hunt home on the lead lap. Also, Rue Koistra. Matt Webber in his debut ran very strongly into one mistake, unfortunately, for Matt. Braden O'Loughlin, last car on the lead lap in 34th. Adrian Gretsch did finish the second last lap, did not finish the final lap, will be classified as 1 lap down from Robert Edwards. Jimmy Middleton is currently circulating after destroying a pair of rear tyres, celebrating I don't know what in 37th. Janesh Rigwani in 38th is going to be home there as well. From Matt McCamley in 39th, Chris Withers, Martin Lipsky is the first of the 2 lap down cars in 41st. Nathaniel Coburn, Stephen Mellis, Leith McClimate, and then we get into the retirements from there on back. Righto, ladies and gentlemen, that is the racing action. I can't believe all of that happened in the dying stages. I was actually expecting it probably to be a little bit of a sleepy old race. It certainly was not. And they continue to find ways to keep performing. And we're going to start off with our elite class podium. We'll start from the bottom rung and talk to Tommy Wallace as the first car. And those are live pictures, by the way, of Jimmy Middleton trying to get his car back to the pit lane after running out of fuel. Mr. Wallace, that was interesting. You had to get the elbows out for just about the duration of that race. You were constantly in a dogfight with whoever was around you, and well, at least you had an interesting night. That's the easiest thing to say about it.
Oh, that was very stressful first race for me. I don't know what to say. I'm still shaking.
Mate, it's difficult. Obviously, you inherited things a little bit with the two guys coming to blows ahead of you, but yeah, you got the old defensive blocking maneuvers going quite aggressively there, particularly very early in the race. Coleman was quick and putting a lot of pressure on. He eventually just fell by the wayside.
Yeah, he was going to get me. It felt like the whole time. The whole start, I was like, oh, he's going to get me at some point. I wonder where. Then I just made a mistake. He faked me out and passed me. My fault, but yeah, he was always going to get me. And then the two guys at the end, the drive-through penalty was lovely. So can't say much more about that.
In terms of things, can't deny you'd be pretty happy with the debut that looks like that.
Yes,
either as well.
Yeah, that's my first proper endurance league race, so I'm very happy with that. Spent a lot of time practicing, so it's good to get a result like that.
In terms of the track and the difficulties around here tonight, we actually talked about some of the bumps, particularly in and around 5, 6, 7, and how difficult it was. Were you having a little bit of an issue with trying to get the Porsche to be compliant through that section of the track?
I just felt like as the race went on, I was probably fatigued as well. Like those last 10 laps, my left leg was shaking. But yeah, just the trail braking I was really struggling with throughout the race. But defended my way to the podium.
Mate, finally, Pete, you had a question for him?
Oh, I was just saying, Tommy just mentioned it was his first real endurance race, and so to pull off a podium in the elite class in this crowd,
yeah, that's
that's hands down. I applaud you. That is awesome because
I'm chuffed.
You're racing against some really fast guys, some guys that and they put a lot of pressure on you lap after lap after lap, and you made it well.
Well, I should mention before I go, congrats to Dean. He's my teammate, and we sort of started 2 and 3, I believe. So it was good just to. I was chuffed just to get that high up on the qualifying. But I just spent a lot of time practicing this track, and paid off.
That's awesome. Do you want to shout out, mate?
Just the TSR team. Thanks for picking me up, and thanks for letting me race with you. Love it.
Good on you, Tommy. Hey, congratulations. Getting a podium in any race is a good thing, but getting it in your first endurance race is something special. So I hope the team will, you work out some way to keep that as a memento, and that's a real good drive to keep in the back of your mind. So yeah, well done, mate.
Yeah. Thanks, Pete Scott. Cheers.
Yeah, congratulations to Tommy Wallace. We'll take one step further forward in terms of our elite class podium, and we'll be talking to a man that we have talked to so many dear times. Sometimes I wonder whether or not we should let his teammates do his introductions. Alas, they're not here. Owen Coleman.
How's it going, guys?
Mate, difficult night there. I mean, we was enjoying a little bit of a defensive masterclass. Tommy Wallace was incredibly difficult to pass in that early stage of the race, and then you had to settle yourself down in. It felt like it was going to be a two-stopper from the very get-go, and a safety car certainly changed that.
Yeah, it was definitely tricky at the start. I was trying not to get too impatient sitting behind. I think it was Tommy that was in front of me at the stage. And then, he made a little bit of a mistake, so I was like, all right, let's go. And then, I sort of watched the other guys just drive away from us. I was like, ah. So, I sort of just tried to switch to a bit of a fuel-saving mode, just to try and save a little bit because, I was making a little bit of inroads to them, but I was just burning too much fuel to do it. So, just backed it off a bit. And then, that safety car come out, which helped us all.
In terms of things, new manufacturer for you this season as well, moving away from the tried and true Porsche, which you found quite a lot of success with. Are you enjoying the challenges of coming to grips with the Chevy?
It's the best way I can describe it. It's a sort of a mix in the middle of, say, the Porsche and the Ferrari, I would say, like the handling of it wise. But no, I'm enjoying it. It's something a bit different. I was originally going to jump back in the Porsche, but I was like, no, I'll give the Chevy a go. But, I think that Audi was the one to pick this round. That Ben would have had that all sewn up, I think, if he hadn't have had power dramas.
Yeah, he said it was fast. You're always understated, Owen, but in that race, it looked like you were playing games with Dean the whole time. Just
Uh,
from a sort of sit there in the draft and save fuel
Yeah,
once you got up to the back of him. But
just a little bit.
yeah,
Just a
yeah.
smidge. But then I started doing it, and then he started doing it, and I'm just like, oh, here we go. So sort of tried to stay near him. I was talking before, and I was hoping it was going to be one more lap because I don't reckon he had enough. And he was just like, yeah, I finished on like 0.4, and I still had enough for another lap. So I was really hoping the white flag would come out on the next lap.
Yeah, well, we didn't think many people had another lap, so we thought you were all going to be pretty tight based on our own numbers. But so no, awesome, well done, congrats on P2. Good way to start the season. Good way to start a championship defence. Obviously, you would like to go one better, but it's nice to see you got some real competition out there.
Yeah, 100%. Like I can't expect to always be on the top step, so it's good to see these other guys getting in there and getting among it. So yeah, it should be a good season, I reckon.
Awesome stuff. How about anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, obviously you got Game Gear Direct, Dash Off Road, John Scott Motors, I've got Electrical Solutions, Motorsport Hauler, obviously, Next Gen Physio, and Colourful Learning. All you guys in the commentators booth and Lee doing the race control. You guys are all doing an awesome job. Cheers for coming back for another season.
All right, thank you, and you're welcome, Scotty.
Yeah, congratulations on another podium finish. We'll just chalk it up to your cabinet at this point in time, which there is quite a few going on there, mate. But congratulations nonetheless.
Cheers, guys. Hopefully we put on a good show for you near the end.
Yep. And finally, we're going to talk to tonight's racing winner. We spoke to his teammate a little bit earlier on. Dean Mackay steps into the series, steps onto the top step, mate, in that Porsche. Reasonable night at the office. That was looking like you were gearing up for a little bit of a stoush. Ben had you for a little bit of pace early on there, but you found something. You was just starting to come back towards him, particularly. Was it a shorter pit stop? You just able to find something? Was there a mistake we missed somewhere in there for Ben, which allowed you to get onto him in that second stint?
Yeah, I definitely did a shorter pit stop, like 5 litres less than Max. Allowed me to close the gap a bit, but I just couldn't get past him in the end. Unfortunately for him, he DC'd, which sucks for him, I guess.
But it was a good race nonetheless, and at least there was something there. We were already just talking about trying to get the Porsche compliant with your teammate Tommy. I mean, the technicalities of this track, there's so many corners that double back, so many corners where you're turning in really, really late. You kind of can't see the apex. You're just sort of guessing at it, and the ability to actually target your turn-in points and maintain consistency just makes this circuit so challenging.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Very, very difficult circuit. And yeah, making a mistake can cost you a lot of time. Yeah, especially when after the safety car, Coleman was behind me for like 30-40 minutes. I was pushing very hard to barely maintain a lead on him.
Right, what was your mindset though? What was your mindset when that safety car came out in terms of fuel?
I was kind of hinging on having enough fuel. I just went into the pit because I thought it'd be the best option. Luckily I did, and I fuel saved throughout the safety car, which I guess kind of lucky again that it lasted as long as it did. I finished with like 0.4 litres left in the tank.
Unbelievable, mate. I reckon we all said it was going to be close. We were calling it as a close one, and I think there was a whole lot of relief when that white flag come out, because Scotty and I had counted one extra lap above what we thought was race laps anyway. But awesome racing to hold out someone like Owen Coleman. I mean, Ben obviously had the woods on it early, but unfortunately he had that DC. But mate, you made it last while you got it. You get your hands on the trophy and hold it high.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. We've got 6 more rounds, so we'll see.
On ya, Scotty.
Mate, congratulations, and finally the floor is all yours to give any shout-outs or thank yous that you'd like to hand out.
Yeah, shout out to the TriStar boys, Tommy, for coming out tonight. Unfortunately, Brock and Brent couldn't make it. But yeah, hopefully we'll see them all out next week. And yeah, big shout out to our main sponsor, Venture IP.
Mate, congratulations on getting the race win here tonight. Go and celebrate with the team.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And finally, one more interview. It's the driver who finished 4th outright, who sits in the Challenger class. But Eli, after that drive through the field, mate, you were making passes left, right, and centre, getting aggressive. That was a phenomenal race from your perspective. Started outside the 10, finished deep inside it.
Yeah, it was all right. Bear with me, my voice is a bit croaky. Missed out on doing a bit of practice before the race started, so missed out on getting ranked correctly. So I sort of just took it as running as an elite racer instead of a challenger. But other than that, just picked my moves and tried not to make too many mistakes.
We're talking about the difficulty of the circuit, and something Owen Coleman just said to us as well. It looked like the Audi was really, really well suited to the racing here tonight. You know, it was on pace, it was on form, but at the same time, it's everything you've said as well. You know, you still got to, when you've got the correct car to be in, you've still got to make it work, and you seem like you had the ability to make the overtakes other guys didn't.
Yeah, I was tossing up between the Audi, the Porsche. There was a few options. Looked at the calendar. The Audi seems like it'll struggle at a few tracks, but it's rather all-rounded quite well. And yeah, just didn't really. I just picked my battles. And if I didn't think I was going to get past somebody, I just sat behind him, just saved some fuel. Because yeah, as I said, I wasn't racing for an outright podium. I was just trying to keep my nose clean and stay predictable, really.
Mate, go ahead, Pete.
I was calling it through the race. I think you might be called up to become an elite driver, though, and I'm glad you said that you missed the practice and didn't necessarily feel like you got ranked properly. So one of the things I know that the boys do in the league is just have a look at how people go in the first couple of rounds, and we called it out a couple of times, and it sounds like you won't be too disappointed if you get stepped up to elite.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of aiming to be in that elite class. I've got my teammates Rain and Ben there. I'm similar pace. They're a bit quicker than me, but I just try and aim to be consistent. I was challenger last season, but I sort of wanted to step up and challenge myself a bit more this season. So if I did get in on Thursday, I would have done that practice and would have been ranked correctly. But that's all right. A win's a win, I guess.
But you might have it stolen. Not stolen. You might have it adjusted.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But hey, enjoy it while you got it, and congratulations. 4th in this field, regardless of what class you are, is a fabulous drive, and you earn every accolade you got. So well done.
Thank you.
And finally, the floor is all yours to thank any sponsors and teammates you'd like to thank.
Just all the boys at Twitchy Foot Racing. Good bunch of guys. Good to get around and have a joke. The digital race engineer and Player One Sim Gear. Thanks for all their support.
Mate, thank you very much for dropping by, and congratulations on class win for tonight. But yeah, like you said, with that change coming in the works, congratulations.
Thank you.
And finally, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it from us here tonight from the Circuit to Navarra. It gave us something a little bit different, something that's brand new to the season, brand new to the calendar, and brand new to our racing service as well. It challenged you can definitely see the challenge for a lot of the drivers out there tonight, Pete.
Yeah, difficult track. Like I said, I called it as a track that I thought had a couple of good overtaking opportunities, but yeah, no, difficult track, and yeah, and now we go to was it Misano next? Yeah, I haven't done a lot of time there, so I might have to do the same thing. Hopefully, I can be a little bit more accurate to my track assessment before the race.
It's actually funny you say that, because the 1, 2, 3 complex here is quite similar to the complex in the final sector at Misano. So that's certainly going to make racing interesting. There's a little bit more runoff, and you can use the runoff. The track's probably a little bit wider and will actually generate a little bit more overtaking. Just because of the nature of some of those corners. Is that Jimmy Middleton still parked up there at the end of that shot? That indeed is. Yeah, so unfortunately, I've actually just been forced to move the weekend of the next race. So unfortunately for everyone, I won't be here in a couple of weeks' time when we head to Misano on the 9th of August, unfortunately. Sorry?
11th of August, Scotty. 11th of August.
Yeah.
Sounds like I might have to
won't
deal
actually
with
be
the
here.
Mad Pom for a night. Then.
I regret leaving you two alone together in the commentary booth. That'll
Hold on a
certainly make for
minute.
good
They can now hear
listening.
me. Knock it off, Mr. Baxter.
we do have a good time, but the Mad Pommy and I. But we tend to have some pretty nut bets, and I haven't won one yet. So
No, you haven't.
And before we kick on any further as well, I want to give a big shout out. Of course, it is the Gamer Gear Direct Endurance series, so a big shout out to our primary sponsor. But that's not all. There is a ton more sponsors behind the scenes that get it done, including John Scott Motors, Prince Racer Custom Creations and 3D Printings, a new sponsor for this season, Dash Off-Road, Sud Speed, who have been phenomenal in helping the series over the last couple of seasons, and it's driven by FRG Esports. Sim Racing in Focus is the podcast of the series as well. For everyone that's watching along at home, we hope you enjoyed all the coverage from tonight's racing action, the Premier Endurance League. Unfortunately, that is all there is. We'll see you in a few weeks' time as we go racing from Misano, which is going to provide some more GT3 racing action for Premier Endurance League.